Hey, good morning, Christina. Christine, excuse me. I got to clean my glasses. Good morning, Christine. Good morning. Good morning to my friend Osman as well from the great country of Turkey. Welcome to Osman and Christine. They are two of the most punctual students and fellow teachers that there are. Look at that. They beat everybody else to the races. Oh, you're still battling a pin, huh? Make sure it's not flared out on the end and you're trying to go past that flare point, depending on which way you're trying to tap it. So those of you that have joined us already early, you'll see a picture of, most people know her as Ginger, right? From the classic series Gilligan's Island. And she's going to be one of the celebrity choices that a contestant can make for the next contest coming up. They can pick her and she can work with them, virtually, fictitiously, on a particular project that they create for this contest. You'll hear more about it. So Ginger is one of them. And her actual name, I think most of you know it, was Tina Louise, born right around 1934. Here's another one of the celebrities that you could pick for your team for the next contest. I'm guessing that you probably recognize her. That's none other than President Clinton's wife, Hillary Clinton. And apparently when she was active, involved with politics, I don't remember exactly when this took place. I could probably look at the back of the card. But she was invited to sit down to an industrial machine. I believe she was over in South Korea. And when she hit the gas on that machine, it blew her socks off. You can see that is not a pretend expression on Hillary Clinton's face. She is going, whoa, kind of like we do with our vintage sewing machines. That's a lot of fun. So she's another one of the people that you could potentially pick for your celebrity team when you enter that contest to try to win a featherweight. Now, granted, Paul Newman is not sitting in front of a sewing machine, but nonetheless, he is sewing. So if you want to have Paul Newman on your team for the next contest where you could try to win a featherweight, you could pick Paul Newman as well. A lot of people don't know. Does anyone recognize the celebrity in this shot? Anyone recognize the celebrity in this shot if the camera focuses on her? Let's see if it's better with that light on or off. Probably better off, isn't it? Well, maybe on. Anybody recognize the celebrity in that shot? Well, yeah. Welcome to Ronald. And also welcome to C. Stoddard as well. Welcome, everybody. Anyone recognize the celebrity in this shot? Picture's too small. Let me move it closer. And I can't quite see the machine, but I think she's sitting in front of a more contemporary Bernina. Bernina, as most of you know, has original roots going back to Switzerland, but they changed production in around 1990 and they started making their machines in Thailand. Oh my goodness, we're in and out of focus there. There she is. Okay, well, that celebrity that you can pick is right there. And that's Britney Spears. Britney Spears is also a fellow sewist. If you didn't know it, Britney Spears. So she's another one that you could potentially put on your team to try to win a featherweight in the next major contest. Has anyone ever heard the name of Patty Duke? Patty Duke in this shot is also sitting in front of a machine. So if you like Patty Duke, you could always pick her for your team as well. Yeah, Patty Duke. Ha-ha! And I'm reading the back of this. It says, with an illustrious career in film, television, and on stage, Patty Duke is star thanks to her role as Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker. I didn't remember that. Helen Keller, The Miracle Worker, Patty Duke must have played in that role as well. So, yeah, she'd be a fun one to have on your team, wouldn't she? And if you're more into the royal side of things, this is Queen Elizabeth II. Queen Elizabeth II, and she's pictured with Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. I think this is right around 1965. And the significance here in this shot with Queen Elizabeth is Singer Sewing Machine Company gave her that machine that's shown in the bottom left-hand corner, I guess it is, as a special gift. And they captured her, obviously, kind of checking out this gift. When you're a big, a celebrity or a politician, you get a lot of gifts. And so Singer didn't want to be left out. So at any rate, if you want royalty on your team to try to win a featherweight, and the featherweight, I call them the princess of singers. So why not have royalty on your team? You could have Queen Elizabeth and, put her to work on a project. And again, you don't have to necessarily make the project. You can, but you can describe the project that you would make with Her Majesty the Queen. So that's kind of cool, huh? Now, if you're more on the light side of things, maybe you want to have this gal on your team to help with a project, although she seems to be sitting in front of a free Westinghouse. Hold on a second. I'm getting a message here. Maybe something weird is happening. Okay. I just got a text from the owner, and she has given me the green light and permission. So, at any rate, this is probably going to be a free Westinghouse machine. I'm looking at the design of the potted motor, the friction wheel that goes against the balance wheel, and obviously Lucille Ball here is a hoot. I love her to death, and she is trying to figure out here what to do with this sewing machine. So if you want to have more of a novice on your team that will keep you laughing, you could always have Lucille Ball on your team when you look at taking on this next major contest to win that featherweight. And I'll clarify something real quick. If you look at the chat, one of the chat names, it's actually in kind of a purpley color, is C. Stoddard. C. Stoddard. Just above Emma, just below Ronald. C. Stoddard is the owner of the machine that we're going to be looking at today, the Pfaff 1222. And Cathy has a really cool history, a very cool history on this machine. I'll share part of it, and she might want to share additional stuff as well. But the reason I did the title of this live stream as I did, and I mentioned Ed Sullivan, I mentioned Paul Revere, and I think I only had enough room in the title to type the word Paul Revere. But if I show you this, I'll hold this in front of the camera, then we'll look at some more celebrities. There, wait, there we go. I think that's it. So this group, this was kind of, I was just a toddler. I was a toddler when this group was established and up and coming in the 60s. But the significance of this group, if you're familiar with them, Paul Revere and the Raiders, and they always had fun costumes that had kind of a Revolutionary War style to them. And they even appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. Once you got on the Ed Sullivan Show back in the day, that was a big deal. That was a career maker. And the machine that we're going to look at today that belonged to Cathy's mom and Cathy's mom's dear friend, Lorene. Cathy's mom's name was Sharon, by the way. I'm kind of looking at my notes as I'm trying to hold this in front of the camera as well. Come on, focus in there, camera. So if you have any familiarity with this rock group at all, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Cathy shared a story with me that they were sitting down to the Ed Sullivan Show during one of the episodes, and all of a sudden this band, Paul Revere and the Raiders, come out onto the stage, and they are wearing the costumes that Cathy's mom, Sharon, made on the sewing machine that we're going to be sewing on today. You want to talk about a cool machine with history, making costumes for this very cool rock band that was established late 1950s and had really quite a roaring career going into the 60s, etc. The machine that we're going to be sewing on today sewed the costumes that these chaps wore on the Ed Sullivan Show. Cathy, if I got that wrong, correct me, but I believe that that's what you explained to me late last night. And she was so patient with me because I was born in the 60s. I'm just a little toddler. And she mentioned the name of this group. And I said, what is that, a play? Is that like a special thing that was on Broadway or what? And she kind of chuckled. She said, no, that was, I'm dating myself a little bit, but that was a very, very popular rock band. They were almost on a smaller scale within the US, maybe. They were almost like the Beatles. I think they had that exclusive style and flair to them. Again, they always did kind of a Revolutionary War type costume theme. And Cathy's mom, Sharon, actually made the costumes that they wore. So anyway, I could blah, blah, blah all the time, but I just think that is super duper cool. Don't you? Don't you think that's cool? Yeah, absolutely cool. So we've got a little bit of a celebrity sewing machine in the workshop today as well. So the next one I'll just show you real quick, and I'm not going to leg this on real long, but I do want to also, since we've officially crossed the threshold of 13,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, which means that triggers the next major contest giveaway. And again, I'm going to be giving away a featherweight, fully restored from the workshop, and I'm going to give the winner of that grand prize the option to go with traditional black, blue, like Singer would have painted it back in the day, or I'll also give them some custom color options as well. And maybe you'll pick this gal. Maybe you'll pick this gal to be on your celebrity team to try to win that featherweight. Maybe you will. Does anyone recognize this gal that's in the shot just in front of our Canadian Mountie? Anyone recognize this gal? Yeah, Christine is right. That's Judy Garland. So if you decide to enter this contest to try to win this fully restored featherweight from the workshop, again, you can either take it in its traditional black blue color. And the reason I say black blue, if you're brand new to this channel, is the Singer paint. I did a spectrometer study of the paint, and I was able to get the original recipe of the paint, the original chemical breakdown. They used a combination of black and blue in order to create their unique sheen on those classic Singer machines. So if you win the contest, you can either go with traditional color like Singer would use, or I'll give you some custom color options as well. Now, the fun thing about Judy Garland here in this shot is you'll notice that she's sitting on the wrong side of the sewing machine. So I don't know if she was a real sewist or not, but she's facing the back of the machine as if she appears like she's sewing, but yeah, who knows? But at any rate, if you want Judy Garland on your team, you could always pick her too. All right, who else do I have? See if anyone recognizes this gal. I'll give you a clue on this gal real quick before I show her to you. She's an Academy Award-winning actress. She was in a number of films, sometimes starring alongside her husband of 50 years. And the couple appeared together in such notable productions as Producer and Activist. And she starred in many classic and critical acclaimed films as well. So see if anyone recognizes this gal. I didn't know if she's quite as popular, but maybe she is. But she's also a sewist, and it looks like she's probably sewing on a Necky machine based on where that balance wheel is way down here. I'll bring it a little bit closer. You might have trouble seeing her. I moved it closer, Christine, so hopefully you can see her now. Well, if you don't know who she is, that's okay, because I didn't know who she was initially either. But this is Joanne Woodward. And again, she was an Academy Award-winning actress. Mel Streep. Huh. I don't think it's Mel Streep, but I've got on the back of here Joanne Woodward. Maybe was she known as Mel Streep as well? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not an expert on Hollywood people by any stretch of the imagination. But at any rate, if you want this gal who apparently likes to sew on Necky machines, yeah, it looks like that might be a Lydia, a Necky Lydia. But Joanne Woodward is also a person you could pick for your team as well. She looks like really a hard worker and a real sweetheart. So, or you could pick this gal. Does anyone recognize this gal? Christine knows the face. She's got really kind of a classic looking face, doesn't she? And I can't can't, she's obviously sitting in front of a treadle sewing machine, but I can't quite tell what it is based on this shot. But this is none other than Mary Pickford. Mary Pickford. So if you want Mary Pickford on your team, and I'll tell you a little bit about her. She was the original America's Sweetheart. She was a producer, and Mary Pickford set the early standard, founder of United Artists Film Studio as well. Canadian-American film artist, writer, director, and was a powerful figure in the film industry. She was the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science. She was in the Academy Motion Pictures. So anyway, this is Mary Pickford if you want her on your team, if you go for that featherweight. All right, here's another one. I'll give you a little bit of history on this gal first. So this next celebrity that you could have on your team to try to win that featherweight, they write about her. She was born around 1975, according to this. Aside from an impressive filmography, this individual will be forever known as Rose from her sixth film, The Titanic, in 1996. She was not filmmaker James Cameron's first choice, and he considered her an Audrey Hepburn type, unsuitable for his film's role. She lobbied hard to become Rose, even calling Cameron to say, "I am Rose. I don't know why you're even seeing anyone else." So at any rate, that gives you a big hint on who this next gal is that you could have on your team. It's none other than Kate Winslet. I think I'm saying her name correctly. Kate Winslet. Yeah. I'll move her a little bit closer. And you can see that she's sitting in front of a machine that has a potted motor. Any guess as to what machine Kate might be sitting in front of? Well, if no one's going to guess, it's looking to me like it's probably a 1591 that she's sitting in front of. The harp space, yeah, Christine's right. Yep, model 15-91. The harp space isn't quite large enough to be a 201-2. That would be the second choice. But Kate looks like she's sitting in front of a 1591. 1591 came out right around 1932 and was a predecessor to the 201-2 with that potted motor. Quite a fabulous machine. It's considered to be more three-quarter size, which kind of gives away, as we're looking at the back of the machine, that it's not the Rolls-Royce of Singer sewing machines. It's not a 201-2. But you could have Kate on your team as well if you want. You'll be able to pick two celebrities. Now, this is the guy, if I were going into this contest, if I were trying to win a featherweight from Scott's workshop, I would definitely pick this next individual. And this next individual was born right around 1934, known for cross-dressing and an iconic figure on the series MASH. Any guesses as to who it might be? He was also featured on, yes, Clingers. That's right. I think that's what he was called, wasn't it? I haven't watched this in a while. Jamie Farr. Klinger. You can have him on your team. Again, you can pick two celebrities. And the other two celebrities I'm not going to show you today real quick before we launch into this Pfaff 1222. I'm not showing you, but they are available to be picked. You can also have John Lennon. John Lennon is another celebrity that you could put on your team. You can have Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. Or you can have, who's the other one? You can also have, and I showed her in a recent live stream, you can have Donna Reed as well. who was in It's a Wonderful Life. So I'm giving you a lot of celebrity choices to build your team for this next contest. But yeah, he's a hoot. I thought that series was great. I remember I was graduating from college. When that series came to an end. And even though it was close to midterms or whatever it was, everybody stopped. No one studied. Everyone watched that last episode of MASH. For sure. All right, so let me move him out of the way. And let's see. And again, because you have a chance to win the Princess of Singers, a fully restored featherweight from the workshop, you can also go with royalty again. And I will give you some hints on this one. She's the daughter-in-law to the Queen, was not born into royalty, and was considered middle class. Her father was a tire salesman, and her mother was a secretary. This individual studied to be a secretary and was transitioned into a successful public relations position. She met Prince Edward, Earl of Wessex, in 1993. They were married in 1999. Following tradition and the expected exercise of power, this individual is active in many charitable endeavors as a representative of the royal family. Any guess as to who she is? It's a picture of her right here. And judging by the faceplate design on this machine that she's sitting in front of, I would expect this to be a German Pfaff machine. That's a pretty classic footprint of the Pfaff faceplate on some of those lighter industrial machines. Anyone recognize this gal? Sarah Ferguson. Nope. That's a great guess, though, Christine. Great guess. Super guess. I don't know if you can see that shot or not. I'll bring it a little bit closer. So this is Sophie, Countess of Wessex, apparently born in 1975. So you could also have her on your team. And again, the contestants in this next contest that's coming up, where you can win a fully restored featherweight, they can pick the same celebrity more than once. So one team could have her, another team could have her, and that way, no one is left out in wanting to have the celebrity of their choice. But I think this will be fun. You'll be able to describe your relationship with this celebrity. Maybe you grew up together in England and you knew her father that ran that tires sales place or whatever, or maybe you knew her mom that was a secretary, and you got acquainted with this family and you became friends. You can make up your own story and build a little bit of a backstory and history on whichever celebrity you pick, and talk about your relationship to them, and then how you invited them to join you for this special project that you pick. You can make up any project you want. And that because they're your friend, they said, yep, I'd love to help you win that featherweight from Scott's workshop. And so the Countess jumps on your team and helps out in any way that she can. Or maybe John Lennon jumps on your team, or maybe Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, jumps on your team, or any of the other individuals that I showed you. So it'll be fun to build a story, almost like the last contestants did with Calico, where you can build a story about these celebrities, your relationship to them, and how you recruited them to your team for this special project that you're going to make, and just kind of tell your little tale. And again, it could be a combination of fact and fiction. Maybe you actually know the Countess. Maybe you don't. All right, so enough blah, blah, blah. Let's finally shift our focus. Goodness gravy. Let's finally shift our focus to Cathy's incredible and mysterious Pfaff 1222. And if you didn't know it, I'll show you the front of this machine. If you didn't know it, the 1222 was preceded by the 1221. And the only significant difference between the 1221 and the 1222 is when they built the 1222, they added this free arm. The 1221 has a flatbed surface to work on. Now, this machine was built with a classic body style that is consistent with a number of other machines that Pfaff made out of aluminum. This machine is almost exclusively aluminum, other than the forged steel on the inside of it. You remember recently we were looking at that one machine, and the question came up about that one machine, and I'll let one of you type in the chat which machine that was. But you were talking in the chat. I looked at the chat, and you were debating and discussing and deliberating, is that machine aluminum or is that machine steel? And so we touched it with the magnet, and certain parts like the arm and the pillar were steel and the bed was steel, but the top and the faceplate was aluminum because we got no magnetic response from it. You guys remember what machine that was? What machine was that? Does anyone remember what that machine was? You guys are sleepy today. You're very, very sleepy. Nope, it wasn't the featherweight. The featherweight is almost exclusively aluminum, and it comes in right around 11 pounds. So it wasn't the featherweight. That's okay. I'll let you kind of look back at the old Westinghouse house. It wasn't the Westinghouse either, but that's a good guess, Emma. That's a very good guess. Okay, well, we'll skip past that for right now, and we'll see if anyone comes up with the answer for that. But this is almost exclusively an aluminum-based machine, so it's very easy to tote around. It's not heavy. It does have an extension bed that can go with it as well. I don't know if Cathy has the original extension bed, but it basically plugs in right here and right back there, and gives you a little bit more workspace. Gives you probably about another 3 inches beyond the end of the free arm as far as workspace. Yeah, I believe that it was the 301. I'd have to go back and check my notes, but yes, certain parts of that would have been aluminum. Certain parts of it would have been steel. We'll have to wait and see. Oh, good. Cathy does have the extension bed, because that really does enhance the capabilities of this machine and being able to have a little bit better workspace. Now, let me see if I can, as best as I'm able, walk you around this machine a little bit. The other thing I'll tell you is, if you have one of these machines, be real careful that you have the correct bobbin for the machine. Because when this machine came to the workshop, this is the bobbin that Cathy sent with the machine. It was actually in the bobbin case. And it looks nearly identical to this one, doesn't it? You look at them side by side. Here, let me come over here. Maybe you'll be able to see a little bit better based on the lighting. Yeah. So this is the one that Cathy sent with the machine, but it's the wrong bobbin. It's actually designed for a domestic sewing machine. I don't know how it got into the machine, and I don't know if anyone had any success using it, but when I tried using this bobbin, the machine was struggling in a number of different ways. This 1222 is going to take a traditional Pfaff bobbin, which is going to be just a little bit wider if you look at them side by side. So on the right is a traditional Pfaff bobbin. On the left is the bobbin that was in the machine when it came to the workshop. There's only a very subtle difference, but when this is spinning up in the raceway in that bobbin case, that subtle difference can make a big difference as far as how the machine is able to perform. So this is the correct bobbin. This is the incorrect. When I send this machine back to Cathy in the great state of Missouri, I'm going to make sure that I put this in a separate bag saying wrong bobbin. And then I've got the correct Pfaff bobbin in the machine. And then as a gift, I'm going to give her one more original Pfaff bobbin. So she'll have two bobbins to start with on her adventure as she works with this very cool machine that made those costumes for that rock band from the 1950s for the Ed Sullivan show. Okay. But the subtle difference, you can even see here as the mounting point, it's got a little indentation, and that creates a little bit of a wobble as this is spinning up in this Pfaff 1222. So incorrect, correct. So I'll separate those for Cathy so there's no confusion when the machine gets back to her. I wound this second one in case we go crazy and do a lot of decorative sewing with this machine. Now, a question for all of you as we're looking at this machine. Oh, you probably won't work with the winder. The winder is pretty cool on this machine, actually, Cathy. The winder is pretty cool on this, and I might even demonstrate that for you just so folks can see how that works as well. But the layout of this machine, and I've got, Cathy has one as well. I've got all kinds of stuff I'm trying to dig out here. The layout of this machine is initially a little bit daunting. It's a little bit daunting. But once you understand the lay of the land on this, it's fairly easy to use. This is your main power on right here for the light. Let me shut that light off above me. See if that helps, maybe. Yeah, I shut off one of my LED lights. It was kind of goofing around with the camera. So the lay of the land on this, main power right here for the light. Right over here, we've got a control center that does a wide variety of things. Okay, I'm going to get really close to it. This inner knob right here allows you to change needle position based on that white marker right there. So right now we're at a center needle position. If I turn it like this, we're at a right needle position. If I turn it like this, we're at a left needle position. For some of the patterns that we might try sewing today, we're going to have to make adjustments to this. This outer knob right here is going to allow you to do anything from a zigzag to a buttonhole, and then also a straight stitch adjustment as far as the length. Way over here on 4, we're going to get that long straight stitch. And then as we adjust it back like this, we're going to get a very short straight stitch. So this controls a number of different features on Cathy's machine. While we're sewing standard type stitches, this should be set right here. It's going to be, I'm going to look and see exactly what they call it so I can use the correct term. So this is called the indicator wheel. This is called, wait, no, that's wrong. That's called it. This is called the pattern length wheel. Pattern length wheel. And this is going to be an essential control when we're sewing both decorative ornamental stitches and also when we're sewing straight stitching and zigzags. When we're doing the common baseline stitches like straight and zigzag, we're going to be setting it on this cool little symbol right there that you can see. When we want to move into the decorative stitches, which are, by the way, some of them are hidden underneath this little hood right here. This has a push button effect where you can choose one of these stitches that are built into the machine. And then you have to make certain settings. Let's look at the one at the very top left row here. And you can see that that's going to be a real cool stitch. We'll probably do that today. The symbol on the bottom, the little oval thing, is showing you that you want a left needle position when you sew this. The 4 above it is going to tell you that you want your stitch length on 4. The one below it is going to be nearly identical. Stitch length 4, left needle position. The one next down below it, stitch length is going to be 4, but we want a center needle position if we're going to do this one. So they map it out very nicely. Here we've got one of those 3-point zigzags right down here on the bottom. You can see that we can set our stitch length somewhere between 0 and 2, and we want to have a left needle position when we sew that one. And you can choose these just by pushing them down like that. And then to release them, you push this, which I believe is Control K. Let me double check. Yep, this is Control K, allows that button to return to its normal position again. So you choose one and make sure your settings are correct. Like for this blind hem stitch again, you can set the stitch length somewhere between 1 and 4, and then you'll make sure that you have a left needle position. Once you're done sewing it, you push Control K, and it pops back up again. This, by the way, as Cathy knows, this didn't work when it came to the workshop. There was quite a bit of work I had to pour into it, along with some parts, to get this control center working again for quick selective stitches. Now, this wheel back here, which I actually called it by the wrong name at first, you've got a wheel here again, which is number 7 in the owner's manual. It's called a pattern length wheel, and that's because if you're going to sew a pattern, you can rotate this and change the pattern length. Then back here you've got another wheel back here, and this other wheel is number 6 in the owner's manual. It's called the indicator wheel. The cool thing about the indicator wheel on this, you've seen me present a lot of Husqvarnas on this channel. I don't know if the 1222 has a clutch to disengage the machine. I'm going to actually talk about that, Cathy, in just a little bit. That's another one of the cool features on this machine. So this, again, number 6 is called the indicator wheel. On a lot of the Husqvarnas, depending on in the back of the machine, and this is true of other cam-generated machines as well, where you put a cam into the machine, depending on where that cam is in its turn cycle, you are either going to start right in the middle of that pattern that you want to sew, or you're going to start, at the beginning if you're really lucky. When they designed this Pfaff 1222, they wanted to eliminate that guesswork of where is that pattern going to start? Where is that pattern going to start? So they added this extra little wheel back here, which again in the manual is called the indicator wheel. And as you rotate it, actually I've got to have a cam selection to do that. Give me 1 second here. Let's see if I can do this. We'll just choose this one over here. And by the way, as we're looking at these, the way they're laid out in the manual, these buttons here, the way these buttons are laid out in the manual is they're numbered 1 through 10. This is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just chose number 8. And then there's 9 and 10. Now, you might say, well, okay, thanks for explaining that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But what's the big deal about that? The big deal about knowing what these numbers are associated with these quick stitch pattern selecting buttons is one of the mysteries that I'm going to reveal about Cathy's 1222 is that as you're looking at this 1222 and you're looking at these stitches that are right here, basically two rows of 5, right? And we know that there's also a buttonhole option on this machine. We know that there's a straight stitch. We know that there's a zigzag. So how many stitches would you guess? that Cathy's Pfaff 1222 is capable of doing with the 10 stitches up here, the straight stitch and the zigzag, etc., etc., etc. What do you guys think? How many stitches? Christine is saying 20. And I don't know why Christine would say 20, but she's a real smart gal and she has a reason for saying it. Any other guesses? How many stitches can this Pfaff 1222 go? How many can it do? What are its possibilities? 24, Emma says. 24. So we keep going higher and higher and higher. Christine and Emma are both real smart gals. One is saying 20, the other is saying 24. But does that make any sense? Because we only see 10. There's only 10 up here, right? And then we've got a buttonhole, a straight stitch, and a zigzag. So wouldn't it be 13? Wouldn't it be 13, ladies, right? 13 maybe? I mean, I'm not a mathematician. You know that already. Yeah. Well, that's part of the mystery of this machine. Let me kind of show you. And I don't know if Cathy has this or not, but let me set the camera down real quick. In my materials, I have so many attachments, materials, you name it, I've got it in the workshop. And I keep all of them because eventually they prove helpful to a customer somewhere. So this little doodad right here reveals the secret. Now, I hope all of you are sitting down. It reveals a deep, dark secret about this machine that came from the great state of Missouri, and it belonged to Cathy's mom, Sharon, and it sewed the costumes for that rock band that were shown on the Ed Sullivan show. The deep, dark secret is this is how many stitches Cathy's machine can sew. I'm still going, folks. I'm still going. I'm running out of ceiling space. Jiminy crickets. So would one of you ladies or gentlemen be so kind as to type this number into the chat and then add 3 to it? That number right there above my thumb, and then add 3 to that number. Because we've got the straight stitch. Well, actually, you know what? Correction. I apologize. They've actually shown the straight stitch and the zigzag on this summary. So I think our final number would be 42. 42 stitches that Cathy's 1222 is able to do. Again, I'll just kind of show them to you. Let me get the camera straight here. I know a number of people that are watching this live stream and later will watch it as a video, are going to say, I've had a 1222 or I have a 1221, the non-free arm version. I had no idea that my machine could do all of those stitches. The secret is that there are combinations up here that we have to choose. And that's why it's so important to know the number sequence of these buttons: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because on this sheet, it's going to tell us push these 2 buttons to generate one of these stitches. So we've got to know the number sequence of these two columns, because that's what allows us to choose the combo stitches that are hidden inside of this machine on this huge list of stitch possibilities. So Cathy, the owner of this machine, if she doesn't have this, I will take this down to Bay Impressions before I send this machine back to her, and I will have them make a copy of this for Cathy so that she can enjoy this 1222 to the fullest with all of those mysterious stitches that the majority of Pfaff 1222 owners have no clue. They have no idea that they're in there. They look at this and they go, that's as good as it is. That's as good as it is. How cool is that? I've got 10 stitches plus a straight stitch, a zigzag, and a buttonhole. I've got 13 stitches. No, you don't. You've got over 40 stitches in your 1221 or your 1222. Over 40 stitches. So if someone watching this later didn't know that and they go, oh my goodness gravy, reach out to me and I'll have to charge you something to reproduce this, especially if you want it in color, and obviously to ship it to you. But I would rather you have this than not have it, because otherwise you can't enjoy the fullness of this incredible machine. Now, another question for you guys. Oh, good morning to Deborah. Good morning to Deborah. And good morning to Gillis as well. Well, you know what, Gillis, if there are more than that on the chart, if there's more than that on the chart, mail a copy of that to me at the workshop and I'll reimburse you, because this is what I have. And this is the original one that came with the machine. You can see the machine on top there. And the number sequences, and then all of these. But like I say, sometimes a teacher, always a student. So if Gillis knows of another chart that will give us even more combo options, how cool is that? So I would love to see that, my friend. Just reach out to me after the live stream, and I would love to see what that is. That would be totally awesome. Totally awesome. So yeah, amazing, isn't it? So it's fun to find the hidden secrets in machines. It just opens up our eyes to the genius of the West German designers that made this machine. Now, let me ask you, we know that this is an ornamental decorative stitch wonder machine, especially after looking at this chart with all these hidden combo stitches that are inside of Cathy's machine. And I don't know if Cathy's mom, Sharon, or Sharon's really, really dear friend, Lorene, would have used those stitches or not, or if they would have even known about them. Because again, this wasn't with the machine, this was in the workshop. But even apart from that, this machine is not only an ornamental machine, it's also a workhorse, even though it's all aluminum. Does anyone know the size of the motor? Do you want to guess the size of the motor on this 1222 that belongs to Cathy from Missouri? What size motor does a machine like this have? What do you think? You know what? I'll say this as you guys are deliberating about the motor size. The other thing I love about this machine is it's just it's almost like a matte white. It's nothing. It doesn't have decals on it. It doesn't have filigree. And yet, as I look at this machine, I just go, that is gorgeous. That is sexy. That's a sexy machine, I think, anyway. It's just a beautiful machine, isn't it? Quite lovely. Quite lovely. Any guesses on the motor size? You know what? And I'm responding to what Gillis just wrote. Gillis number one is blessed to have the same chart that I have, because I'm guessing a lot of 1222 and 1221 owners do not have this chart. They don't have it. And there may be a possibility of other combinations. Here's the only thing you need to be cautious of. And I'm saying this for the sake of everyone that's a part of the live stream now and we'll possibly be looking at this later as a video. The reason that they set very specific parameters on this chart, and this is kind of what, and Gillis has the same chart. The reason they set real specific parameters on this chart over here, this is our roadmap to success over here. It's going to tell us, oh, I've got it upside down. I love it. This is our roadmap to success, which we're reading right side up now. It gives us all the parameters that we potentially need to know. It's going to tell us how to set all of the stitch boundaries to generate whatever stitch we want to generate. It's going to tell us about needle position. It's going to tell us about stitch length. It's going to tell us, do we need to adjust the reverse knob, or the reverse lever rather, which is this right here. Do we need to make an adjustment on this reverse lever to sew a certain stitch? On the chart that I have, there's only five stitches potentially, where you can see in this column all the way over here that we've got to take that reverse from its normal horizontal position, and we've got to move it to a vertical position. And the reason we have to do that on these stitches, this one here, this one here, this one here, that one, and that one, is because otherwise the material will be feeding the wrong direction for the way the stitch is being generated. In other words, we're going to sew off the material, literally sew off the material, not like a sew off, but sew off the material. So knowing that this adjustment needs to be made for that specific setting for number 5, number 15, 16, 22, and 23 is absolutely essential, along with the stitch length as well. So, this would be my guiding light, because I know that Pfaff has specifically indicated this is what you need to do so that you don't have a bad result. You don't have a bad result as far as, again, if a needle is trying to do something and it's the stitch pattern generation is trying to force it to do something wrong because we have that needle position in the far right and it should be in the far left, then we potentially could break a needle or damage the hook system when that needle strikes it in a way it's not supposed to be running at that time. But my point is this: we have at least 42 stitches, And if Gillis finds additional resources, I'm sure he'll be kind and reach out to me and say, hey, Scott, I found it. I found exactly what these additional mysterious stitches are and what the settings are for them. But these settings are absolutely essential for our success, and we'll demonstrate that during this live stream today when we actually are sewing. Oh, Christine moved to a bigger screen. Probably has me on like a 72 plasma now. I'm on a 72 plasma, Mom, look. So let me talk a little bit about the machine, a little bit more about the machine, and answer one of the questions that Cathy presented. I'll turn my light on first, see if this camera behaves, hopefully. So I talked about this area over here already. Needle position, stitch length, choosing straight stitch, zigzag, and then also buttonholes, etc. And this is also this little control over here on the side. I'll show you real quick. Seldom used by folks, but this has to be pushed in if you're wanting to generate buttonholes. You push this in, and then you make your selection over here to generate the buttonhole that you want. Okay? Let's get over to this one. This is a fun control right here, this lever. So right now, the normal sewing that we're going to be doing, it will most always be in this position right here. But I showed you on that long list of the 42 stitch pattern options that Cathy's machine is capable of doing. I showed you those 5 or 6 unique stitches that require that we make an adjustment to this, because it's going to reverse the feed of the machine to generate that decorative ornamental stitch. When we're wanting to do that, we need to move it to this position right here. And what that's going to do is it's going to take the feed and make it 180 degrees the opposite way. Now, what about dropping the feed dogs on this 1222? Is it possible? Does anyone know? Can we drop the feed dogs on this 1222 to do free motion quilting and freehand embroidery? Can we do it? Does anyone know? I'll bet you my friend Gillis knows, because Gillis has, it sounds like Gillis has this machine, because he's got that real cool long sheet that I showed you. Gillis, tell our friends, and I already know this, but tell our friends, how do we drop the feed dogs? Okay, so Gillis has a 1222E, a 1222E. How do we drop the feed dogs on this 1222, Gillis? Tell us what to do, my friend. So right now we've got it in a fixed reverse position for those 6 patterns or so that we can sew with Cathy's machine. This is normal sewing. And by the way, if you want to control the reverse, you can push it down as well, like this. And then when you let it go, it'll come back up again. So down, up allows you to control reverse on and off, or you can lock it into position for reverse as well. I'm looking for my friend Gillis. Oh, that's okay. Cathy, we didn't even know you were gone, dear. But I'm glad you're back again. Yeah, if you live in a rural setting, the internet can sometimes be spotty, can't it? Okay, I don't see my friend Gillis popping in. My friend Gillis is not popping in. Maybe Gillis is going to their owner's manual right now and just double checking, because not everyone is going to use the feed dog drop on a machine. They're just not, right? They're not going to do it. Featherweight owners don't have an option unless they have a 222K that allows you to drop the feed dogs. Regular featherweights, you cannot drop the feed dogs. You have to use a darning plate. Cathy King is telling us something. Did you see what Cathy King wrote in the live chat? Cathy King is spot on. She's saying, Scott, take that lever right there. Take that lever, my friend. Take that lever right there. No, don't go right, Scott. No, that's the wrong way. Don't go right. Go left. Cathy King said go left. And there you go. Now our feed dogs are dropped. So we move this lever all the way to the left, and we're all of a sudden in a spot where the feed dogs are down, and we're able to do darning or free motion quilting or whatever we want to do. So this is a real important lever to understand, and Cathy King is absolutely spot on. We're now in the feed dog down position. We can do our free motion quilting. Okay, we're done free motion quilting. Now we want to do one of those 6 cool ornamental patterns with Cathy's machine. Now we're going to have to move it to there. Okay, we're done with all of that. Now we want to do just basic, regular, good old-fashioned sewing. We now need to move it to there. So hopefully that helps folks that are watching this later that may not have understood the functions of this one lever right here. Again, if you want to control your reverse sewing to finish off a stitch and to lock off a stitch, you can just push this down like that. And you're going to be in reverse, and then you can let it go and it'll pop back up. For those special stitches, again, that are on this little pattern sheet thing right here, like this one right here, where is it? So any of these that have this little symbol in the far right-hand column, that one right there, when we want to sew this stitch, number 5, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, when you want to sew stitch number 5, we all of a sudden have to move this lever right here to that position right there to reverse our feed direction for the machine. Same thing for stitch 15. Same thing for stitch 16. You can see that little symbol over here in the far right column. Same thing for stitch 22 and 23. We've got to do the same thing here in moving our feed direction to that vertical position so that it switches the feed direction of the machine. Otherwise, we're going to be sewing off the material, literally. Yeah. So again, if anyone watching this now or later isn't fortunate like Gillis and myself to have a copy of this, so you can enjoy your 1221 or your 1222 or your 1222E to the fullest, send me a note. I'll let you know what the cost is to get this printed up and to get it shipped to you, and I'll send it off to you straight away because I want you to be able to enjoy your machine to the fullest. Okay? What else? I'm all over the place. I'm covering so much on this machine. Oh, let's cover another thing that the owner, Cathy, asked about. The owner, Cathy, asked about something. Let me set the camera down for a moment. Let me set the camera down so I can free up my hands. I'm going to rotate the machine so you can see the back of the machine. And actually, you know what else I'm going to do real quick? I'm actually going to unthread the machine as well, because then I can show you how to thread it. So we're going to unthread the machine. So this lever back here, a huge lever, isn't it? It's quite large. This lever over here is going to allow us to do a variety of different things. Obviously, we can lower the presser foot like that for regular sewing. We can also push this. Oops, wrong way, Scott, wrong way. I don't deal with these 1222s very often. You can also push it all the way up. And when I'm in the regular sewing mode, once we get it threaded, what it'll do is it'll sweep down and we'll actually pull that thread up from the bobbin. Right now, it's already pulled up. So this lever is going to do a variety of things as well. The other thing that it will do when it's all the way in the up position right there is it's also going to disengage the clutch. So when you're looking to wind a bobbin, you have to push this lever all the way into the up position like it is right now. And then all you're going to get is bobbin winding capacity. You're not going to be able to sew. And I know that there have been some folks that have gotten a machine that's been in this position, or it gets bumped into that position somehow, and all of a sudden there's no feed for the machine. The machine is not running. All it is spinning up over here, and they assume right away that there's an issue with the machine when it's just a matter of that the presser foot lever is in the point right now where it's disengaging the clutch. So when you're winding a bobbin, push it all the way up like so. And then when you're sewing, you can put it all the way down. And I'll show you as well. Hopefully I can show you how to pull that thread up. So I don't know that I ever answered the question about the size of the motor because I'm bouncing all over the place. I know that. But the size of the motor on this machine is surprisingly big, which tells you it's not only able to sew decorative ornamental stitching, but it's also a very strong machine as well with an original Pfaff motor inside of here. 0.95 amps, 0.95 amps. So it has more power than the majority of all of the machines that Singer made that you could mention right now. Bigger than the 201-2, bigger than the 1591, bigger than the 101, bigger than any of the machines that we oftentimes think as workhorse type machines. And a lot of people right away, because this is a light machine made out of aluminum, they assume it's going to be a lightweight when it comes to heavy duty sewing. But that is absolutely incorrect. With a 0.95 amp motor, this has a lot of get up and go when it comes to heavy duty sewing. So you can take advantage of that side of the machine along with those 42 decorative ornamental stitches that are hidden inside of this machine as well. And then obviously when you're transporting this machine, you can rotate the spool pins into the top of the machine. You don't want to be moving a machine around even in your sewing area with this sticking out when possible, because you could snap this off, and a lot of people have. On this side of the machine, and we'll actually deal with this when we're setting it up to sew by threading it. This is going to be our upper tension control right here. So as we're looking to adjust our upper tension, let's say our lock stitch is not defined enough. Camera is having trouble focusing today a little bit. There we go. Oh, it was there. Now it's gone again. I didn't know what's going on with this camera. It's on Minute Maid or something. Let's see if that light helps. Nope. Hopefully it doesn't keep doing this where it's focusing in and out. But at any rate, this is our upper tension adjustment. So right now I've got it set on the default. But certainly if you have a loose lock stitch, you can back this down to a lower number. Or if you have the opposite, where you have a top stitch that's underserved, you can back this down as well to give more power back to that bobbin case to pull down. This does have also an auto threader. You just slide this down like this, and you can auto thread the machine as well. I never use these, but a lot of people do like them, and it does work now. This also has a built-in walking foot. Right here, you can see it's in the up position. Then if I want to pull it down so that it's, oops, wrong camera angle. Let's try that again. The walking foot right now is in the up position. Get more light on that, see if that helps. So the walking foot right now is in the up position. All I have to do is pull it down. And then I've got a dual type feed where it's going to give us a lot better feed for some of the heavy duty sewing that we might be doing. Or you can pull it down and get it back out of the way if you don't need it. So pull down, locked in, pull down, disengaged again. And a lot of people will have to pick up walking feet for their machines. It's kind of cool that on this 1222, and I'm sure the same is true of the 1221 and the 1222E as well, they built one right in for you. And a lot of the newer machines have done this as well, so they kind of followed suit with a machine like this. Okay, so let's talk about the threading of this machine and then actually put this machine to work, since we've been running quite a while already, and I haven't even shown this machine sewing yet. And Cathy's probably like, I'm out in the rural setting, my internet is in and out, I'm hoping I can see my machine sew before my internet goes out again. So we'll do our best on that. I have the creative performance. Cool, nice. Okay, so let's thread this machine up as best as we're able. Let me grab the thread. And again, for the setup today, I'm using a basic Coats & Clark dual duty XP thread, available at Joann Fabrics, or Joann's as they call themselves now. I like this thread. It's got a lot on this spool, about 250 yards, I guess it is, something like that, 250 yards. So you can do a lot of sewing with one of these spools, and they only cost about $4, $3.75 or something like that. And oftentimes they have deals on these at Joann's as well, where if you buy 3, you get 2 free. So if you're not a Joann shopper, but you're saying I'd love to save money on thread, check out their sales. They're usually on the weekend. You buy 3 of one of their threads, especially the Coats & Clark ones, and you can get 2 free. So that's a good deal. All right, so let's start up here, and I'm going to have a little bit of trouble. I have no one to hold the camera. Start here, and then we're going to be taking the thread over to this end of the machine right here, because we have to run it through this area of the faceplate to between those tension discs. So I'm going to take the thread like this. I'm actually going to draw it right in between this little opening right here and draw it in between those tension discs. And then I'll bring it all the way to the front. I then have to take it up through this take-up spring right here. Draw it in there. You can kind of see we got tension on it now. And then I want to get my take-up arm at the highest position, so I'm going to manually rotate that up. Oh, I still have that down. Going to manually rotate that up, and then I'm going to thread this up through here, this nice little open slot that they've got for us. Now we're going to come through here, and you have to kind of draw the thread into this little part right here to get it to snap into place. I'm doing this one-handed, so hopefully it does it. Yep, there it goes. Get that into there so that it's nice and secure. unless I let go of it. There we go. I've got it again almost. It's a little bit harder one-handed. Okay, so that's our setup so far. Kind of see it. But again, when you're drawing it through this space right here, make sure you hold that top thread so you can draw it through and get it nice and deep into those discs. Otherwise, you're not going to have proper tension. Okay, so now I'm going to bring the thread down to here. We've got a little thread guide right here, just above the needle area. Kind of draw it through there. Oh, wrong side, Scott, wrong side. On the right side, not the left side. I'm used to oftentimes running the thread through the right side, or the left side rather, but it's on the right side for this one. All right, I think that's pretty clear. Okay, and then finally, the needle on this, for the needle on this, you're going to be putting the flat side to the rear. And on this particular one, it's a little bit tricky because this is set up where you can use a twin needle on it. And the socket for the needle is a little bit wider because of that. So make sure when you insert the needle into this machine that you push it in and then you push it back a little bit. You have to push it in and push it back a little bit. Otherwise, it's going to be offset forward and you're very likely to hit your throat plate, especially as you get into some of the decorative stitching. So you push the needle in and then just kind of nudge it to the rear of that socket that's a little bit oversized, and then lock it into place once you get it in there. Okay? And then we're going to be threading this from front to back. Let me get a little bit more thread so I've got that. Be threading this from front to back. And again, you could use the auto needle threader. A lot of people do. I don't use them, but that doesn't mean you can't. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up now. Get my thread in there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo something that we've already done. I've already got the bobbin case in there. And I've already got the thread pulled up. But we're actually going to pull this out. See if I can do this one-handed here. I'm just going to pull this out so we can try to use that lever in the back to pull that thread up. And you can see right now when you put this together as far as threading this bobbin case, you'll most likely have your bobbin in your left hand, your bobbin case in your right hand. You'll want to make sure you have the thread coming over the top when you put your bobbin into the bobbin case. Have your thread coming over the top so that as this is turning, you notice as I draw the thread, as this is turning, it's going to be turning counterclockwise. Okay? Counterclockwise. All right. So let's see if I can get this auto feature to work now on the machine. I'm going to turn my light on so I have power. Go and put our bobbin case back in. Lock it into place. And I'm going to go ahead and hold my thread in the back. And what I'm going to do with the lever in the back is I'm going to push the lever all the way to the top to cause that needle to sweep down and hopefully pull the thread up. I've only done this once, so I hope I don't have that backwards. I'm pretty sure I have it correct. Okay? So I'm pushing that lever all the way up, and watch what the needle does. So it swept down one stroke, pulled that thread up straight away, and then I can just sweep that thread to the back. Okay? So that's what I was trying to demonstrate before, and I realized before that I didn't have the power on. I didn't have the power on, and that's why it wouldn't sweep down. I was like, duh. So the little lever in the back, again, does a number of things. When you push it to the top, it's going to disengage the clutch, but you also use that same function when you're initially setting up your machine to sew to pull that bobbin thread up. Just push it to the highest position, that back lever, and then when you're done with all that doodad stuff and you have your material underneath there, which we're going to finally do now, you can lower that same lever down so that you're ready to sew. And again, if you're brand new to sewing, because I've seen some people on YouTube and on Facebook groups and stuff demonstrate that they want to show that the machine works. And so what they do is they run the machine in this position. What's wrong if I have it exactly as you see it? I don't have any material, between the presser foot and the feed dogs. What's wrong with running the machine like this? What can happen? What are the bad results? What are the potential bad results? Yeah, Christine's a hoot. She's like, all right, Scott, you've been running like an hour and 20 minutes, buddy. You haven't even sewn yet. Oh, it's a hoot. So why shouldn't I operate the machine like this? Why shouldn't I operate the machine like this? Anyone? What does that say? A reps the bottom? A reps feed dogs scratch the presser foot. Yeah, Susie, Emma, type that again, dear. I don't know exactly what you're saying there. But Susie is spot on. If you've got metal against metal, and there's no material in between there, you're going to scratch the feed dogs against the bottom of the presser foot attachment. You're going to create an uneven surface. You're going to create a rough surface that's going to snag on material. It's going to create all kinds of issues. What's the other issue with metal against metal, not relating to the presser foot, but possibly relating to the feed dogs? What's the possible issue there? Thread nest timing. So thread nest timing, I think I know what Cathy's saying, but I'm not absolutely sure. But the other issue is you never want to run a sewing machine with it like this, because it's going to also dull the feed dogs. The feed dogs have a nice sharp edge to them to grip that material and to feed it evenly, especially when you're dealing with a machine like this that has tri-motion. Tri-motion means that not only is the needle going to be swinging, but the feed dogs are also going to be changing direction very rapidly to generate some of the stitches that we're going to do. So you don't want to have metal against metal, because it can damage the presser foot attachment for sure, but it can also dull the feed dogs also. So you got to be real careful about that. Yeah, Emma's correct. Scratch the presser foot and blunt the feed dogs. Yeah, you never want to blunt your feed dogs. It actually sounds painful to do that, doesn't it? So I'm going to raise this up, and we're finally going to sew something. Yay. I agree with Cathy with who said it? It was cute. Christine. Christine was like, we're going to do a sew off. Yes, we are, finally. God bless America. All right. Oh, I never talked about something else as well. We'll do this, and then I'll just clarify one other thing. Well, I'll wait to clarify it while we're actually doing the stitch. So I'm going to get my material in place. The material I have is 100% cotton with a stiffener. 100% cotton with a stiffener. Again, a Coates and Clark type thread that we're working with. And then the needle is going to be a 9014 Universal Schmetz. This is the needle that I have in the machine right here. If you have not tried them before and you want to try it on your machine, fabulous machines for all around sewing. They can handle leather. They can handle knits. They can handle denim. They can handle pretty much anything to a great degree. Okay, so now let's finally, after all the blah, blah, blahing, let's finally sew with this machine, shall we? Yeah, let's do it. So let's go into our little secret box here and look at some of these stitches that are available. Now, again, the way they're numbered is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 1 through 5, and then 6 through 10 on the right side. Why don't one of you pick one of these stitches for us to sew? And if the owner wants to do it, if Cathy wants to do it, that's totally cool. But if someone beats her to the punch, then I'll probably go with that one. But why don't you pick one of these? Again, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Which one should we sew first? me shut off that LED light too. I think that's better with that light off, isn't it? Yeah. All right, I'm going to look at the chat, and then we'll actually stitch with this machine. Oh, goodness gravy. So we've got 5, 6, and 8. 5, 6, and 8. So I'm going to go with the owners first. I'm going to go with Cathy's choice of 8 first. That's actually one I had chose before, which is kind of cool, isn't it? So I'm going to go with 8, and then I'll go 6, and then I'll go 5. Okay? So if you want to choose 8, again, this is 6, 7, 8. You choose by just pushing this down, like so. Now we look at this, and it tells us a couple of things. When we look at number 8, it tells us that our stitch length should be between 0 and 1. It tells us that our needle position should be in the center. Hopefully you can see that okay. Okay, so we got to make sure that we set it up for success, right? We got to set it up for success. So between 0 and 1 on the stitch length, right now we're at 4, which is not going to work. And that's where I'm talking about, where we look at that long list of stitch patterns, and we can be pretty confident when we follow the settings that we're going to get a good outcome. Put it probably right about there, maybe, huh? Almost on the buttonhole setting, right about in there, between 0 and 1. And then our inside knob again controls our needle position. It's telling us to go with the center needle position. So that should be good to go as far as what we need. That should be good to go. The only other thing we have to maybe decide is when we're doing straight and we're doing zigzag and we're doing a lot of buttonholes, we're going to be having it on this setting, but then we have to adjust the pattern length. So we're all the way up on 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13. Yeah, 12 is going to be one of our lowest settings. Let's bring it all the way down to 12. It doesn't give us a setting for that. See what that does. And then this little one back here that I was going to talk about before, and I never got to it, is to make sure that we start at the very beginning of the pattern. So I've got to rotate this now until I get that same little symbol. See that same little bird symbol coming into view? That's going to get me right spot on with the beginning of that pattern. Spot on with the beginning of that pattern. Hopefully you can see that. And as we're sewing, this is going to move. This is going to move. And so if we want to get back to that center pattern, the beginning of the pattern again, we have to manually rotate that back to this symbol when we're getting ready to do that new stitch line. Okay. All right. Again, I don't use these 1222s very often, so hopefully I did everything correct. Otherwise, I'll do it again. So let's give that a go, see what we think. All right, I think I've got everything set up. Let me get my foot controller so I can actually reach it. Try that back a little bit. All right, hopefully I didn't goof anything up, but you never know. Let's give it a try, see what we get. All right, here we go. Just making sure I'm not sewing over my material. Can I get a little bit closer? I want to get a little bit closer if I can. And we'll stop right there. And again, I can change the appearance. I talk about this on other machines as well. I can change the appearance of this stitch pattern depending on what I do. We'll look at this right away. I can change the look of this entirely by how I adjust this right here. This is going to be the pattern length. I went with a 12. I could have gone even shorter on that pattern. So if I'm going to move this over a little bit more, maybe go all the way down to 11 and see what impact that has. And again, I don't work with these 1222s very often. So once Cathy gets this machine back in Missouri and she really gets intimate with this machine that her mom used and her best friend used as well, she's going to be able to have a lot better handle on where those sweet spots are on these settings. So, all right, let's give this a clip and then we'll look at that. We'll look at the lock stitch as well. We've got the lock stitch facing up right now. Okay, so this is our top stitch. Kind of show that to you in the shot. And again, I would want to tighten this up even more by either adjusting the stitch pattern length or by adjusting the stitch length itself. I ended up going right about in line with a buttonhole, but I could have gone even closer to 0 to tighten this pattern up even more. Because right now we've got a little bit of a gapping on it that I would like to see go away. And there's our lock stitch on the back. Beautiful stitching on that as well. But again, it can always get better, can't it? It can always get better. And I think we'll make it better right now because this was the owner's choice as far as the stitch. Let me see if I can just do a little bit of a tweak and see what impact we bring. I'm going to sew the same pattern just one more time. And I'll just make a couple of little adjustments just to see what impact we bring to it. All right, presser foot is down. Let's go over here. So I went right about there on the stitch length. It told us when we looked up in here that we could go between 0 and 1. So I'm going to take it down a little bit further. Take it down to right about there. I'm not going to go all the way down to the 0, but I took it down a little bit further than we had it. This I've already adjusted from, I think we were on 12. Yeah, we were on 12. I took it down to 11. Let's go down to about 10.5 on this. So 10.5 here. We took this stitch length down just even a little bit further, closer to the 0. And let's see how Cathy's pattern changes with those few little adjustments. All right, here we go. Same pattern. It's going to be pattern 8 built in, and we'll see what look we get now. See how it changes, if at all. All right, here we go. Making sure we're actually getting feed. You are going to be shocked. You are going to be utterly shocked with those two little tweaks we did. We took the core stitch length, we brought it down a little bit closer to that 0. We took the pattern length and we went from 12 down to about 10.5. Look at what we have now. And this might be, maybe we went a little bit too far. Maybe we went a little bit too far, but that's the whole beauty of a machine like this, that as you become more familiar with it, you can take a stitch pattern that starts like this and you can make it look like this. Probably went a little bit crazy on it, a little bit too short on the stitch pattern, but it shows you that you can take a single stitch pattern and give it almost unlimited differences as far as how it presents. Almost unlimited differences. Yeah, I went too short, but that's okay. It gives you a vision of what the machine is capable of doing, even when you're getting into that short stitch range. Yeah. And again, it doesn't give us a huge number of parameters for setting these stitches. So you have to kind of tweak it a little bit. It becomes a little bit subjective, doesn't it? This is going to be, let me show you again. It's going to be our top stitch. The two differences, identical stitch pattern. We've just given it a very different look, haven't we? That's our top stitch. Now the lock stitch. Let me see if facing it towards the machine will help us a little bit more. This is our lock stitch. Camera's having trouble on what to focus on, so let's give it a little bit more help. I think somewhere in between those two stitch pattern, those two stitch pattern options would be the best option. Here I was too wide, too long. Here I got a little bit too tight. So that again is our lock stitch, our top stitch. Yeah, I like them. I like them both to some extent, but I'm thinking that my choice, and Cathy might look at it entirely differently, but my choice would be I went a little bit too short here. I was too long there as far as the pattern length and the stitch length. Somewhere in between these two, I think would be just about spot on. Somewhere in between those two. Yeah, somewhere in between those two. That's what I would do anyway. All right, let's get this back in place and choose a different pattern. Those of you that had other pattern choices, and I know the chat has gone up quite a bit. Oh, actually, I can see it still. 5 and 6. 5 and 6. 5 and 6. All right, so we're going in the lid area. First thing I have to disengage using Control K. I've got to take number 8 out of the equation now. And now I want to go with number 5, which is going to be this one way up here. I'll move my finger so you can see it. So at the top of the left row is the next pattern that one of our friends wanted us to sew. So I've got to choose that, push it down. Now it's telling me I need a left needle position, and I need to set the stitch length at 4. Here it's giving me a specific number, not a range. It's giving me a specific number that I need to set the stitch length at. So 4 and then a left needle position. So let's go ahead and do that. So first of all, I'll take my stitch length all the way up to 4. And then I need a left needle position. Let me just double check that I didn't read that wrong. Nope. So I've adjusted my inner knob to take us to a left needle position. I've taken my stitch length and I've taken us to a 4. And that's what this guide up here with its parameters is telling us to do. So let's try this next stitch pattern now and see what we think. Just checking the camera to see if it's pretty much focused. Okay, so this is going to be, looks like this is going to be Susie's stitch. Susie's stitch as far as the stitch pattern she wanted to see. The only other thing I should probably consider doing real quick is whether or not to make an adjustment on the stitch pattern length itself. It's kind of what I'm debating right now. I'm going to go to a 10, see what we get. That's about as low as we can go. Put on a 10 and see what result we get. All right, I think I have everything else in place. Let's give this a go. All right, here we go. Now notice the material being jostled back and forth. The material is being jostled back and forth because that is the tri-motion function of this machine. The feed dogs are moving back and forth very rapidly to manipulate the material, possibly almost like a dance. 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It's going very rapidly. So watch what that results in along with the needle swing. Here we go. Oh, that is a lovely one. Good choice, Susie. Good choice. It's quite cool. Take a look at that straight away. I don't know what that's called. Does anyone know the name of that stitch? Quite spectacular, though, isn't it? I'll put this in front of the machine. It's easier to see, isn't it? Let me clip these threads and let's actually set it over there and take a look at this next stitch that Susie from Minnesota picked. Yeah, I think we'll set it like this. It'll maybe a little bit easier to see it this way. So the far right row is one we just sewed. That's the one that Susie from Minnesota picked. It's quite cool. It's a very cool little stitch, isn't it? Yeah, I like that stitch a lot. Let's turn around and look at the lock stitch. And again, right now, as far as tensioning, I have it on the auto setting, and it's generally doing a very, very nice job. We might be a little bit heavy on the upper tension. So if I were going to sew a ton of this, I might adjust it back a little bit because our lock stitch is looking a little bit more poppy than the top stitch, but they really are very nicely balanced right now. Really quite nice. Yeah, lovely stitching. Let's do that next one. I think we just did 5, and the other choice that someone had thrown out there was to do 6, I think, too. So let's see if we can do 6 next. Let me go ahead and get this into place, and we'll make those changes. Okay. So these are the 3 we've done so far. Kind of hard to see with that LED light, I know. Yeah. All right. So the last one we did is 5. I think the other choice was 6. So I'm going to go ahead and Control K to take that out. And now we're going to do 6, which I believe is this one right down here, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I believe the choice was 6. Go ahead and choose number 6, which looks almost like a diamond pattern, doesn't it? It's going to tell us to set our stitch length, as you can see, between 0 and 1, and that we need to have a center needle position. Hopefully you can see that. So between 0 and 1 with a center needle position. First thing I'm going to do so I don't forget is I want to start right at the beginning of this pattern. I don't want to start midstream. I don't want to start midstream. So I'm going to take this right here and calibrate it so it's right at the very beginning of the pattern, which it is now. See that? So now it's right at the beginning of the pattern. And all I did was adjust this by going to the right. See, I'm going again. And again, this is going to be rotating. Let me turn my light on for a second. This is going to be rotating as the machine is sewing. This is going to be moving. So I've got to get it all the way back to that beginning spot, the start point of the pattern. Almost there. Almost there. Where are you? Where are you? Oh, there it is. It's almost there. It's coming into view. There we go. So when I set it like that, I know that we're going to start right at the beginning of the pattern. Yeah, it's better with the LED light off, I think. Better with the LED light off. Okay, I totally lost track of what we're doing. So we have to take our needle position and bring it to the center. So that's going to be our center knob. So now we're at the correct position there. Now we need to adjust our stitch length between 0 and 1. Probably go right about there. I think the last time I went a little bit too short. We'll go right about there. So it's just in line with the buttonhole, which means 0.5, 0.25, 0.5. I guess that would be technically, yeah, 0.5. That would be right around 0.5. Because I think 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and then 1. We'll give that a try, see what we get. See what we get with that. So that's all the pattern told us. Again, the pattern that I believe it was Emma picked, pattern number 6, set the stitch length between 0 and 1, put the needle at the middle position. And with that, we should be ready to run off to the races. Let's see what we get. Oh, I wasn't looking at the chat. Cathy King is asking how much the machine weighs. I would estimate that it's going to weigh about the same as a Singer 222K. And that weighs about 14 pounds. The featherweight, the regular featherweight is 11 pounds. The 222K weighs about 3 pounds more. I'm going to estimate that this is going to be right around 14 pounds. I might be way off. And I'll tell you how we can know for sure so that we don't have to guess. Let's see. Hold on a second. All right, I've got this scale calibrated. Where is it? I've got this scale calibrated pretty much. Let's make sure. Okay, that's going to be real close to 0. Let me just make sure. Okay, that's going to be right about dead on with 0. If you can see that in the shot. So let's do this. Now let's spin it around. We'll lift up Cathy's machine. Actually, now that I'm lifting it, it might be heavier than 14 pounds. Oh, it surely is. I'm way off. I'm glad that Cathy King asked that question because it's heavier than I remembered. I guessed around the weight of a 222K. It's going to be quite a bit heavier than that, actually, but it's not ridiculous. What is that? I'm looking at it upside down. About 23 pounds. Yeah, I think pretty close to 22 and a half to 20. Yeah, 23 pounds, I think, is about where it's at. So I was off, wasn't I? I was guessing around 14 pounds. It's quite a bit heavier than that, probably about 8 pounds heavier. But still, most of our vintage machines that we deal with a lot are going to be between 35 to 38 pounds. So it's still quite a bit lighter, isn't it? But it does have that 0.95 amp motor and all the other mechanics to generate those 42 decorative ornamental stitches. So there's a little bit more engineering in this 1222 than the average vintage sewing machine. But 23 pounds, a little bit more than a bag of dog food. I think most dog food bags are, I mean, they have bigger bags for sure, but a large bag of dog food, 20 poundish, it's a little bit over that marker, isn't it? Yeah. Great question. Great question, because, 14 pounds sounded right in my head, but I was off. I was off. Sometimes a teacher, always a student. And I'm glad we checked it. I'm glad we verified it. Great question, Cathy King. Great question. So about 23 pounds. Now we know. Yay. All right, let's do this next stitch. £23. Yeah, that's not bad. Not too bad. But like Cathy just said it, if she's sewing a heavy quilt, it's heavy enough, especially with this long base. It's got this long base platform that it's distributing that weight. And certainly most of the weight is on this end because of the mechanics and the motor and everything else. So it's going to give a nice counterbalance there as you're working on this end of the machine. Yeah, very, very nice. And we don't see these machines very often, do we? Very, very seldom. Very seldom. All right, I think we've got everything set. Let's do this next stitch, I believe, that Emma picked. Did this one for Susie. These two over here were for the owner, Cathy. And incredible different results, didn't we get it? As we were making those little subtle adjustments. Now we'll do this next stitch, see what we think. All right, here we go. Slow it down, Scott. Slow it down. Perfect. And you can see again when we look at this, whereas sometimes you'll, like I did on this first row, well, I guess it's not bad. But I was going to say on that first row, I ended up, yeah, I did. See on this first row we did for Cathy's stitch, I forgot to calibrate it. So we started in the middle of the pattern. We started in the middle of the pattern because I didn't adjust that little dial in the back to calibrate it to the beginning of the stitch pattern. Here I remember to do it, here I remember to do it, and here I remember to do it as well. So we have the entire pattern. It's not cut off like I did with Cathy's on that first stitch row. Yeah, quite lovely. Now this one again, we could tighten this up more. I was a little bit conservative. I set the stitch length near the buttonhole image, and I didn't go as close to the 0. If I went closer to the 0, we could get even a tighter pattern, but it's quite lovely, isn't it? Let me give that a clip. We'll look at it a little bit closer. Yeah, I think it's quite nice. Okay, so our top stitch first, let's look at that, along with the other rows of stitching that we've already done. Yeah, it's quite lovely. I don't have any complaints about this at all. I think that Emma picked a lovely stitch pattern, quite lovely. But I think we could make it even better by tightening it up, kind of like we tried to do with Cathy's over here. But I went a little bit crazy on that second row. I went a little bit too short. So maybe a little bit of tweaking, we could get even a different result with that, couldn't we? Yeah, beautiful. Let's look at the lock stitch. Turn it around, look at that lock stitch. Again, the lock stitch is always more difficult for the machine to generate because it's pulling that thread back up through the layers. Yeah, quite nice, quite nice. Very, very nice. Are there any other, let me go back up to the top again. We've done stitch 8. Well, let me do them in numerical order. We've done stitches 5, 6, and 8 up top. 5, 6, and 8 up top. Are there any other stitches that someone would like to try for these built-in ones? And then we'll try to move towards some of the combo ones. So right now we just got done doing stitch number 6, I believe. I'll go ahead and disengage that. Again, you just, after you sew the pattern, you disengage it by just hitting this Control K. So we've done, the one that Cathy, the owner, picked is 8. And then we did 5 up here. And we did 6 down here. Are there any others that someone would like to see before we move into some of the combo stitches? I'm just kind of looking over at the chat to see if there's any others that you'd like to see. Again, we did this one. We did this one. And we did this one, I believe, number 8. So we did not do any of the other stitches up here that are built into the machine. And obvious choices, not the combo stitches. Those are a little bit trickier, aren't they? All right, I'm going to look at the chat, set the camera down, and see if there's any other choices that you folks would like to see. All right, Cathy King is saying number 9. Emma is saying number 9 as well. Oh, hello to Munster. That's a fun name, isn't it? Hello to Munster. Hello to Munster. What a fun name that is. Very fun. You know, especially for, I'm not a big celebrator of Halloween. I'm just not. But for those that are real passionate about the holiday of Halloween, a screen name of Munster, it makes me think of that program. What was that program? Was that called The Munsters? With that fun, odd family? You know, the grandfather? At any rate, I digress. All right, so let's go with number 9 now. Number 9. And you know what I'm going to do right away before I forget again? Let's see what the settings are. So again, the way you have to know these as far as number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It almost looks like a Chevy symbol, doesn't it? If anyone's ever owned a Chevy, that almost looks like a Chevy symbol, sort of, kind of. So it's telling us between 0 and 1 with a center needle position. 0 and 1 with a center needle position. So I just pushed that down. We selected that one. 0 and 1 with a center needle position. I need to remember to calibrate this, right? I want to start at the beginning of the pattern. I don't want to start midstream. Oh, there she comes. There she comes. There she comes. Stop right there. Yes. So now we know we'll start right at the beginning of that pattern. Right at the beginning of that pattern. Okay. We're going to leave the stitch pattern length alone. I'll leave it right on 10. I like that. Now we need to adjust our, what was it, center? Yeah, center needle position. Double check. Yep, center needle position. We're already good to go there. This again would be a right needle position. This would be a left needle position, but it's telling us go center. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to shorten this just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. We'll go to right around 0.25, just a little bit above 0.25. We're going to be crazy here. We're going to be outrageous We're going to be wild. So we're going almost to 0.25 on the stitch length. Again, the outer knob is our stitch length selector, along with a pattern selector with relation to a zigzag, a straight stitch, or a buttonhole. And then our center one, again, our little knob here is going to be needle position. We should be good to go. We're all set. We're all set to do this next pattern. All right. So, yep, close my door. Close the door. All right. Okay, let's do this next pattern. And again, it should look something like, at least to my eyes, and you guys might totally see it differently, and that's fine. Like Mr. Miyagi said in the original Karate Kid movie, if picture come from inside of you, picture always right. So if you see something other than a Chevy symbol, that's cool. That's what I see anyway. All right, here we go. And again, it's a little bit hard to hear. Let me shut off my heater in the workshop real quick. I shut off the heater so it's really, really quiet. Listen to how silky smooth Cathy's 1222 is. It's got a 0.95 amp motor. We're showing a very, very detailed stitch here, and yet it just runs silky smooth. Silky smooth. All right, here we go. Oh, let me get that thread all the way back. There we go. I hope I didn't go too short on the pattern. I may have gone too short on the pattern. Oh yeah, I think I went too short. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Yeah, I went too short. I think it's a little too short. Yeah. We're going to maybe sew it one more time and make it a little bit longer. You can kind of see, you can see this Chevy symbol. You can kind of see it. Yeah, but I may have gone that's the thing is when you don't spend, when it's not your machine and I get it working perfectly and I make the repairs needed and all that kind of stuff and I get it calibrated and tuned and adjusted spot on, but I still am not intimate with that machine. Certainly not intimate with it like Cathy's mom, Sharon. Sharon would have known this machine inside and out, upside down. She was a seamstress. She made dresses for this group that went on the Ed Sullivan show. She would have known this machine much, much better than me, much better. So we'll look at this, and I think it's quite nice, but I think we could make it even better if we weren't quite as short on that stitch length. Maybe even lengthen the pattern a little bit too. Let's take a look at this. This is what I was calling kind of the Chevy symbol, but it's a little bit too, I squunched it a little bit too much. Yeah, it's not bad. It could be better. Yeah. Yeah, it's when I look at it through the camera and I'm looking at the laptop, it's not bad, but it's a little squunched. I would kind of stretch it out a little bit more, wouldn't you? Yeah, let's look at the lock stitch. And I'm mindful of our time as well. We've been running a long time already because of my introduction and everything. And yeah, let's take a look at the lock stitch, see what we think of that. And again, I have it on auto right now as far as tension. and I'm using a size 90 needle. I probably should be using a size 80 needle, maybe even a 70, maybe like that 7511 embroidery needle. But I decided to go with my Schmetz 9014. So because I've got a bigger needle, we're not going to get quite as much definition as well. If I take it down to a 7511 embroidery needle by Schmetz, we'll have even better definition with these types of patterns. Even better. All right. Well, I think it's quite lovely. But again, I'm always committed to making things better. So I think we can make it even better, don't you? Yeah. Bow is too hot in the dryer. I have no idea what that means, but Christine is telling us, I think that she's doing laundry. So I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. Christine is mysterious, just like this machine. This machine is mysterious too. Yeah. All right. So let's finally migrate to some of those combo patterns that most people that own a machine like this are not even going to know about. They're not even going to know about it. See if that light better. Yeah, it's better with the light off. I'll leave the light off for now. Okay, so let's go to our little sheet. Let's go to our little magic sheet. And I didn't look at the chat carefully to see if Cathy, the owner, already has a sheet like this. But if Cathy doesn't have a sheet like this, she can let me know, and I will go to the effort of copying it, getting it copied, and sending it with the machine when the machine is shipped this week. Yeah. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, and I know it takes a little bit extra time. It takes a little bit of extra time, but it involves you more in choosing the stitch that you want to see us try to do. Let me back the camera up. Let me lay this long sheet out. Goodness gravy, this sucker is long, very, very long. And let's have you pick some of these combo stitches. And if you could, you'll notice in column 1 over here, column 1, there's going to be a number, and that's which button we push down, or buttons we push down. If you could, pick a stitch that's going to allow us to push down 2 buttons, if you'd be so kind. And some of them are 2 buttons, some of them are not. I'll just read them off as we go by. Hold on a second. Okay, so your stitch options to choose for us to sew off on next is going to be stitch 5, 6, or 7, because those are, see how there's 2 buttons in that column, 1 and 5, 1 and 3, 1 and 3. So 5, 6, or 7. Hopefully you can see that. Yep, I think you can. Stitches 11 or 12. 11 or 12. Stitches 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, or 20. Those are all 2 button stitches. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Then we go down to 22. Stitch 22, you can see, requires 2 buttons. Stitch 30 and 31. Oh, this is fun. I didn't test this already. Stitch 30 requires 2 buttons. Stitch 31 requires 3 buttons. Get out of town. What? I did not try that one. How interesting is that? So stitch 31, you know that someone's going to pick that because that requires 3 buttons. 6, 7, and 10. Holy Michelob. Jiminy crickets. And then finally, stitch 41, way over here, requires 2 buttons as well. 9 and 10. All right. You guys, I'm doing the best I can. I'm working with lemonade and I'm trying to hold I'm trying to do this as best as I can. So those are our options. Stitches 5, 6, 7, stitches 11 and 12, stitches 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, stitch 22, stitch 30 and 31, and then finally stitch 41. No, it doesn't mean it doesn't. Scott, are you telling us that we can't pick any of the other pretty stitches that are over there? We can only do the 2 button ones? Not really, but I'd like to try to do some of the 2 button ones at least, maybe 1 or 2 at least, right? That'd be fun. And certainly that one that is just a mind blower. What? Stitch 31 requires 3 buttons? Did anyone even know that? Probably not. Holy mackerel, Jiminy Crickets. Dancing with Wolves. That's crazy. All right, let me look at the chat and see what y'all are saying, because wow. Huh. Okay, wow. So I got to write these down. Just have like a list. All right. Pencil. Pen. Put on a little bit of music. Hopefully the music, I'll try not to have the music on when I'm talking, but just something so I can. That's weird. Let's not do that one. All right, just something soft in the background. Someone is texting me. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. The text that came in was from Cathy, the owner, saying, I don't have that cool sheet with all the stitches on it. So I will make sure I go down the Bay Impressions and say, ladies, copy this for Cathy from the great state of Missouri. And that way she can do all these fun doodad thingy whatty-callies. Yeah. Great. All right. I got it covered. Okay. Now I need to start writing, for goodness sakes. Christine, here, I'll point it this way. Christine is saying, hold on a second. Too loud. Christine is saying, go with number 20. All right, go with number 20. Then we have 30. What does that say? These glasses are so goofed up. Okay, 31. Yeah, Susie is saying 31. Emma's saying 31. Cathy King is saying 31. 31. So 20, 31, 6. 6. Okay. Yeah, 6 is one of our 2 button ones too. And then how do you know what settings length to use when combining stitches? Do you have to have the chart? Yeah, if you want to do combo button stitches, Cathy, you definitely want the chart, because the chart's going to tell you a number of different things. And we'll actually look at that as we do each of these stitches. We're going to start, and if I missed one, would you guys let me know, please? But I'm seeing combo stitches of 20, 31 with a lot of exclamation points. Christine is like, yo, man, do 31, do 31. Susie's saying 31. Emma's saying 31. Cathy's saying 31. And then Emma's saying 6. So let's go ahead and do these stitches. And then if y'all pick more, that's totally cool. Because again, the combo stitch options are significant. So let's try 20 first. And let's answer Cathy's question of how do we know how to set this puppy up to do these combo stitchy thingies? So the first one we have is 20. Stitch 20 down here in this neck of the woods. So what it's telling us is a couple of things. Let me actually turn my light on here temporarily. So as we look at stitch 20, I'm going to try to get it right in front of the camera. As we look at stitch 20 that one of y'all picked, I don't remember if it was Cathy or who picked it. So stitch 20 is telling us we need to combine the buttons of 3 and 10. Hold on a second. Stitch 20 is telling us we need to combine the buttons of 3 and 10. We need to make sure that our needle position is on the left side, so a left needle position. We need to make sure that our stitch length setting is right around 1.5. That's what it's showing us right there. And then last but not least, we need to make sure that our stitch pattern length is right around 10. So each one of these columns for, say, stitch 20 represents something different. That's just the number of the stitch. This is telling us the buttons we need to push down, 3 and 10. This is telling us the needle position right there. This is telling us the stitch length itself. And then this is telling us the pattern length over here. So we need to set all of those parameters for stitch 20 to get the result that we're hoping for. So we go with buttons 3 and 10. Let's take these in steps. We need to choose buttons 3 and 10. First of all, I need to start over. Get that to pop up. So 3 and 10, again, we're counting like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have to pick button 3, which is this one, and button 10, which is all the way up here. Is it going to? I'm trying to decide here. Okay. Apparently there's a sequence you have to hit it in or something. Maybe I was doing it wrong. But you can see, let me shut my light off again. Because initially it was trying to push these two down at the same time. So at any rate, whatever I did it right eventually. So now we have patterns 3 and 10 push down. Okay. Hopefully you can see that in shot. Patterns 3 and 10. And then for pattern number 20, it's telling us now we need to make sure that we have a left needle position. So we've got to take our center knob here and make sure that it's a left needle position, which is what we just changed it to right there. Okay. Now our next thing is we need to look at stitch length, and we need to set it at 1.5. Again, if we look at the pattern parameters, 3 and 10, we push those down correctly. We now have the needle position in the correct spot. We now need to set the stitch length at 1.5, 1.5. And then finally, it's telling us for our stitch pattern, we need to be on 10. So 1.5 is our next thing. We need to go and adjust this back because we are way down though. We're almost down to 0. 1.5 on the stitch length. Again, this is going to be stitch length, and then I'll also allow you to choose zigzag or buttonhole or straight stitch. Okay. And then finally, we have to set our stitch pattern. It says on 10. We're already on 10, which is great. And that's what this is right here. This is our stitch pattern length. So we're already on 10, which is the lowest setting we can go. So we've done everything it told us to do. For stitch pattern 20, we pushed down buttons 3 and 10. We went to a left needle position. We went to a stitch length of 1.5. And then we went to a stitch pattern length of 10. So let's give it a go and see what we get, huh? And we're aiming to get, for this, we're aiming to get a pattern like that little green one right there. See that little green wavy thing going on? Yeah. So to answer Cathy's question, the owner's question, that's how you have to do it. You have to look at each column. Once you choose your stitch, you have to look at what buttons have to be pushed down, what the needle position is, what the stitch length is, and then finally what the pattern length is. And then in some instances, like this one down over here, these two for 22 and 23. And I don't think no one picked 22. So we're not going to be doing that one unless someone picks it and says, let's do 22. That additional column that you might have to choose is what regarding the feed of the machine. That's where you have to move this then from its normal operating position to the vertical position so that it reverses the feed so that that pattern, you're not sewing off the material, you're sewing off effectively. So if all of that sort of kind of what makes sense, put a smiley face, put a thumbs up, put something like that into the chat if you'd be so kind, just so that I know that I did a decent job of trying to explain how you set up for one of these dual button thingy whatty-callies. Yeah. The only other thing we could potentially do is go back to our pattern calibrator. Right now, you can see right now we're a little bit off. We're a little bit off. So I'll see if it lets me, yes, it does. See if it lets me calibrate it back to the very beginning. Kind of like the Sound of Music. We start in the very beginning, a very good place to start. Yeah, do, re, mi, and all that. So now we're on do, re, mi. So all we did in addition to all the other settings we just did is we took this pattern start calibration knob thingy, little dial, and we started it right on the bird, which means we're going to start right at the beginning of this pattern. Okay? All right, let's close our door and let's see what happens. Yeah. The voice of confidence. Let's see what happens. Ha ha! Okay, and then we'll try sewing off. I think the other one you all picked was 31 and then 6. 31 and 6. All right, let's give it a go. This should be interesting. A little bit terrifying, but interesting too. All right, here we go. Notice the tri-motion. Notice how it's manipulating back and forth using the feed dogs. All right, stop right there. We made something, you guys. We made something. Ha ha! That's kind of cool. Yeah. So we just did our first combo stitch pattern. And we did stitch number 20 on that long sheet thingy that I have. And this is what we created. Yeah, it's quite nice. It's quite lovely, isn't it? Yeah. Let's take a closer look at it. All right. Clip, clip here, clip, clip there. That's from Wizard of Oz. I've got all kinds of movies in my head. All right, let's put that thread back. Clip one more set of threads on this side. And then we'll take a look at this stitch that we just did, number 20. And I have to look back at the chat to see who picked number 20. It was Christine. Christine picked number 20. So this is Christine's stitch. We're going to look at the top stitch, and then we'll look at the lock stitch. Yeah, it's a very cool stitch. Very cool. And again, you could not generate this if you didn't know what the settings were. And you notice the settings are very specific. Very, very specific. We couldn't do this if we didn't have that little chart, which I will be sending to the owner in Missouri. And if anyone else needs a copy, reach out to me, please. Yeah, those are lovely, aren't they? Beautiful. And that's really a cool pattern that Christine picked out. Let's turn it over. We'll look at that lock stitch that we just did. Also spectacular, quite nice. And again, we could make this better. I want to say it again. As cool as these look, and I know that Cathy, the owner, is like, wow, awesome. We could make them even more awesome, even more cool if we were sewing with a smaller needle, like a 7511 embroidery needle. Very, very nice. Very nice. So you can see as you look across these rows, the last one we just did that Christine picked, number 20, did not give us an option as far as a range of stitch length. It said set it on 1.5, do not pass go, do not collect $200. So that's where, again, if you wanted to experiment outside of the parameters of that sheet that I showed you with the 42 stitch options, you're rolling the dice a little bit because this one in particular required very, very specific settings to achieve what we got. And so I would just be cautious. The folks at Pfaff put a lot of thought into putting together that list, and they set those parameters very specifically to give us good outcomes like you see here. So, I would operate within the constraints of that sheet, and that way you don't potentially damage your machine. Because as we push these buttons down up here, we're engaging the mechanical cam stack functions. And if we try to push down the wrong two buttons that are going to create a conflict, we could damage the cam stack or one of the other mechanisms in there. There were two parts that had to be replaced in here. So I know that Cathy's going to be, operating within the parameters of what Pfaff has given us and not rolling the dice. If someone out there wants to roll the dice, do it on your machine. Don't do it on Cathy's machine. Okay. Yeah. All right, let's restart this. I'm going to push Control K. And Control K lets us pop up those two buttons that we just pushed down. Now let's see what the next one is that someone picked. I'll also get Turiel back in place. So we're ready to launch into this next one. And I'll try to wrap this up pretty soon. I would like to do a couple of regular old sew-offs since I've got elk hide, I've got Italian leather, I've got, what else do I have? Protected full grain leather. I've got vegetable tan leather. So we'll pick out a couple of regular sew-offs to do like with a straight stitch and a zigzag as well once we get done with the fun button features of this 1222. So the next one somebody picked is this one that scares me to death. This next one scares me to death because I didn't test it. I didn't try it. I have no idea. But it's going to be choosing 3 of these buttons up here to generate stitch 31. Let's take a look at the sheet and see what it tells us to do. All right. And who picked 31? So if this totally goes south, I can be like, doggone it. So Christine picked this one, Susie picked this one, and Emma picked this one, and Cathy King. So I'd have to be like shaking the finger at all of you because I wanted to try it too. All right, so 31. Oh goodness gravy! This is going to be an interesting one. It almost looks like that arcade machine from back in the past, where you're shooting like little bullets and these little things are moving back and forth across the screen. Do you remember that? It looks like that little evil spaceship thing, doesn't it? Sort of, kind of. It looks like that little spaceship that we're going to be trying to do next with stitch 31. So it's telling us, first of all, in column 1, let me see if I can get this to hold it straight. I wish I had somebody to hold it for me, but I don't. So 31 is telling us we need to push down buttons 6, 7, and 10. 6, 7, and 10. It's telling us we need to go with a center needle position. We need to set our stitch length. What is that showing us? Let me see. Yeah, it's showing us we have to set our stitch length like right around point. What would that be? These reading glasses are not serving me well. Let me turn my light on temporarily. Hold on a second. I'm kind of doing this in the dark. So we're going to be a little bit above 0, it looks like. Yeah, right around 0.25-ish. And then finally, it's telling us our stitch pattern length has to be on 11. So if you look at all those parameters, these are all the settings we need to do to try to stitch off on this stitch pattern number 31. We're going to do the buttons first, 6, 7, 10. Let's do that first. 6, 7, 10. So we have to push this one first. Then we have to push this one next. See what happens? It pops it back up. Isn't that interesting? There we go. Maybe I need to push them simultaneously. And then finally 10. Let's see if when I push 10, it pops these back up. This will be like a little game. There's a little guy on the inside of there pushing them back up just to mess with me, right? Yeah. Yep, it did. It pushed them back up. And I only have like 2 hands. Let me see if I can do it like this. Hold that down. Hold 10 down, and then push 6 and 7 at the same time. Jiminy crickets, that's like a circus act. That is literally like a circus act. Did you see how I had to I'm holding the camera with my right hand, and I had to hold this down and then push these down simultaneously. And now finally, I need to get something to drink because I'm exhausted. But no, finally, we have buttons 6, 7, and 10 down. Thank goodness. Yay. Yay. 6, 7, and 10 down. All right. You get closer so you can see that. Oh, let me shut my light off too. Again, sorry. 6, 7, and 10 are all depressed right now. Not like sad depressed, but just like pushed down. Yeah, you guys know what I mean. You guys are smart. All right. So let's close that and forget about it for now. Yeah. Woo! All right, let's see what else we have to set here for 31. Oh, goodness. So 6, 7, and 10. Now we need to set our needle position far left. Far left is our next setting. You see that? Yeah. Far left. Again, we go over to here. And right now we have a far left needle position already. See that? So far left needle position, good to go there. Where are we? 31, 31, 31. There it is. Now we need to set our stitch length. And it's looking like it's going to be, it's kind of hard to see that a little bit, but it looks like it's going to be just a little bit above 0. And then we finally have to set our pattern length on 11. So let's do those 2 settings. Our stitch length is going to have to go down from 1.5, which is the last one we did, all the way down to, try to get this right. Right about there is what I'm seeing. Yeah, it's almost spot on with the buttonhole. Spot on with the buttonhole. So that's our setting right there for stitch length. And look at it over here. 31. This one right here. Right on the buttonhole. And then finally, our stitch pattern length has to be on 11. Right now, we're on 10. You see that? So we have to go to 11 now. So we set our stitch pattern length on 11. Our needle position is far left. Our stitch length is right on the buttonhole marker there, which I guess would be about 0.5. Yeah, it'd be 0.5 because 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1. So we have our stitch length on 0.5. And what else? That's it. Other than taking our little calibrator and moving it all the way to the beginning of the pattern. So we've got it at the beginning of the pattern. Our pattern length is 11. All of our other parameters are set. Let's give this a go. This is pattern 31. Pattern 31. Let me just make one other adjustment with the machine. Move the machine a little bit to the left so I can get the camera a little bit closer to the action. There we go. That's better. I like that. So any of you that don't do live streaming, any of you that have never been in front of a camera doing something like this on a live stream, it's challenging. So be patient with me as I try to cover things and make sure that, you know, every audience member is different. Some are incredibly adept and technology oriented and like buttons and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, Scott, you're moving a little bit slow, but I have to move for everybody. So be patient as we go through these steps, and I'm sure someone watching this later, it will be helpful to them. It'll be helpful to them for sure. Okay. All right, let's give it a let's make a spaceship or whatever this thing is supposed to be. All right, here we go. Pattern 31. A little bit scary. All right, here we go. Total silence in the workshop. And here we go. Oh, wow. That's kind of cool. That actually turned out really nice. Although I don't know. I would maybe see if I could tighten it up a little bit more, but it doesn't give us on this try combo, try whatever you'd call it. It's the 3-button pusher for 31. It only gave us an option of 0.5 for stitch length, and it told us exactly how to set the pattern length. So it is what it is. With the needle position, everything else, it's quite a lovely pattern, but I like to have the option to maybe tighten it up a little bit more if I could, and having a different needle would certainly help. But still, it's really quite cool, isn't it? It's quite cool. All right, let me get that over there. All right, stay there. Static electricity. It's the only bad thing about winter in Wisconsin is the static electricity starts to go up through the roof, and I'm touching thread and it's like sticking to my fingers, and ugh. Any of you that do Facebook, you saw that I posted a video of Hank and I behind the workshop, and all the leaves are down now and the squirrels are out doing their mischief. So let's take a look at this pattern. This is 31, the only one on my chart that requires that you push down 3 buttons. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's cool. I would be naughty. It tells me to set it at 0.5. I would probably go to 0.25 just to be naughty. Or I would take the stitch pattern setting from 11 back to 10. Just to tighten that up a little bit more. But it's a lovely pattern. It's very, very nice. There's kind of the totality of what we've sewn so far on this live stream. How about the lock stitch? What are we going to see on the lock stitch? Absolutely as it should be. Beautiful lock stitching. And again, all of these patterns could get a little bit more presentation, a little bit more definition if we used a size 7511 Schmetz embroidery needle. 7511 Schmetz embroidery needle instead of the 9014 that I'm sewing with right now. Yeah, very, very nice. Very nice. I think we have one more that somebody picked out. I've got to uncover it. Number 6. Number 6. Let's see what that one looks like. Oh, yeah, that's kind of a rick-rack or a ticky-tack or whatever they call those things. So number 6, this is the one we're going to do next. This one right here. Get my hand out of the way. Number 6. So on number 6, we can see that we have to push down buttons 1 and 3. We need a left needle position. We're going to set our stitch length on 4. And then we're going to do something totally different. Yeah, not totally different. Yeah, that's about it. I was trying to look at that other column. I thought my eyes moved to a different number. So 1 and 3, number 6, yep, no, 1 and 3 buttons, left needle position, number 4 for stitch length, and then we're going to go center as far as the stitch length pattern. Yeah. Yeah, okay, let's go and do that now. Okay, so 1 and 3. We got to recalibrate this and pop all of those buttons back up now. So I know this is 1, and this is going to be 3. So 1 and 3. We got to push these down. Close our little door. All right, our other adjustments now. Number 6. Left needle position, which we already have. You see right here. This would be a center needle position, right needle position, but the pattern schematics are telling us to go with the left needle position, so we're going to move that right to there. Then it's telling us on the stitch length, we're going to be going much longer than we've done on some of the other patterns. If I go right over to here where number 6 is, you can see it's telling us to go all the way to 4 as far as the stitch length. So now we have to adjust our stitch length over here. We were right on the buttonhole, which is right around 0.5 for that last stitch pattern. Now we need to go all the way up to 4 to right there. And the last thing it's telling us is then we need to adjust our stitch pattern length to that symbol. So we've been on different numbers. Now we need to go back to the very beginning where that symbol pops up and set it on there. If I went the right direction, I think I did. There it's coming into view. So this is telling me this particular pattern that was chosen, the number 6 pattern, instead of giving us discretion in setting that stitch pattern length, it's taking us to a default. So the machine engineering is going to override any selection we could make on changing the stitch pattern length. And then the last thing we can choose to do, I believe, will be reaching over here and recalibrating that knob so we are starting right at the beginning of the stitch pattern instead of midstream. Cool. So this is calibrated to the start of the stitch pattern. Hopefully you can see that in the shot. This one we've set on the default, so it's not allowing us to have any discretion in the stitch pattern length. We chose our buttons already, which are buttons 1 and 3. We set our stitch length, which is this outer knob out here, to 4, and we set our needle position to left needle position. So with that, we should be good to go. Yep, because there's no reverse feed on this one. Okay. Yeah, and if you're seeing this for the first time, you're probably like, Jiminy Crickets, that's a little bit complicated. You just have to make sure that you follow the recipe. You know, some of you like to make your own stuff from scratch, and you don't like following recipe. You want to do your own thing. With this one, it's better to follow the recipe. It just is. Okay, I've got that into position pretty much. I'm going to put that presser foot down. You can see we've done quite a bit of stitching already, even though we haven't done the regular sewing, the straight stitch, the zigzag, etc. We've done a wide variety of other stitches, some of which are going to be multiple cams being engaged by pushing down 2 to 3 buttons. So that's kind of cool too, isn't it? Yeah. Because that really is the mystery of this machine. A lot of people don't understand its capabilities as far as cam output. Okay, so let's try this last stitch. We've done 20, 31, and 6, and then we'll see if we can do some just regular good old-fashioned sewing. Then we'll wrap up this live stream. There's so much more we could do with Cathy's machine, but we are running about 2 hours and 40 minutes already. And time goes real quick when we're together, doesn't it? 2 hours and 40 minutes has already lapsed. So we need to look at wrapping this up pretty soon. Okay. All right. Let's do this next and final combo button stitch pattern. Again, this is going to be stitch number 6. Just going to get my take-up arm at the highest position. All right, let's give this a go, see what we think. Here we go. Now I'm going to pause real quick and just say, look at that tri-motion. Look at that tri-motion. Those feed dogs are working overtime to execute this pattern. Giving it a little bit more gas. Oh, that is a pretty pattern, isn't it? It's similar to the third one that we did, but a little bit different, isn't it? Yeah, it's a little bit different. I'm kind of just rotating it around so you can look at it straight away. It almost looks like a beehive or beehives, doesn't it? Yeah, really lovely. So these are all the stitches that we did on Cathy's machine, and there's so many more we could do. Again, over 40 stitches that that this machine is capable of generating when you start incorporating multiple buttons that you're pushing down in the right sequence with the right settings. Well, we've already done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll say 7 because this is the same pattern. It just looks differently. I'll say 8 because it looks so different. These two over here that we just made some subtle changes on pattern length and stitch length on. But all of them are spectacular. And this is only about 1/6 of the patterns that Cathy's machine is capable of doing. Because again, it can do 40 plus, around 42, 44, depending on how you count them and how you slice and dice them. We only have about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches represented here, with a little bit of a variance over here with these over here on the far right of the camera. This is a really fabulous machine, not just because it sewed costumes that were on the Ed Sullivan show. That's cool. That's super, super cool. Not only that Cathy's mom, Sharon, was a gifted seamstress, not only that Cathy's mom's friend, Lorene, was a part of this equation as well in bringing this machine to this family, but just how spectacular she generates these stitches, even with the less than ideal setup of a 9014 needle. 9014 is not what Sunny refers to as a harpoon needle, but it's a bigger needle. It just is. So if we were to do these same stitches with that embroidery needle by Schmetz, say a 7511, goodness gravy, we could take this even to a higher level. And it's already pretty doggone impressive. Don't you agree? Yeah, it's quite spectacular. All right, I'm just going to put on a little bit of music and get a drink of water. If some of you have never done theater or public speaking or anything like that, I've been talking almost continuously, which is no big deal, I guess, because I like talking. But I've been talking almost continuously now for about 2 hours and 40 minutes. So I'm going to get a little drink of water real quick, y'all. Get a little drink of water. All right, we'll just quickly look at these. Beautiful. Let's look at that lock stitch. I don't know about you guys and gals, but I am impressed. I am impressed. What a beautiful machine this is, and how spectacularly she stitches now. She didn't stitch like this when she arrived, I promise you that. So let's do this. Let's do a couple of regular sew offs. I'm going to set this to the rear with all of those beautiful stitches that we did during this live stream. And any of the stitching I do always goes with the customer. If you saw me present that recent machine, that 66-1 that belongs to Chris, the treadle machine that belonged to his grandmother and mother, he was so excited about getting those 2 layers of saddle grade leather into his pocket. Even during the live stream, he scooped them up and stuck them in his pocket. So all of these will go to Cathy as well in Missouri, and she'll be able to enjoy them and kind of relive what she saw during this live stream. All right, I'm going to throw that to the side, turn my light back on, and let's actually do some regular sewing. Now, to get us back to regular sewing, we don't have to do a lot, but we do have to do a couple of things. One is we have to take these buttons out of the equation over here. So I'm going to push Control K, pop those back out so that we're not going to be generating a cam stitch, at least not unintentionally. This is fine right here for regular stitching. I'll leave that right there as it is. Our stitch length is fine on 4. I'll leave that as it is as well. I'm going to move our needle position back to center. And with those few little changes that we just did, we should be ready to do regular sewing. And by regular sewing, I'm saying like a straight stitch, a zigzag, etc. And to demonstrate, again, this comes with a 0.95 amp motor to demonstrate the heavy duty side of this Pfaff 1222. And it's the same thing with the 1222E that our friend mentioned that he or she has during this live stream. It's the same thing with the 1221. They're all going to be equipped with a very robust original German motor that's capable of doing some really crazy heavy duty sewing. So we're going to put that to the test right now. We've already seen the beautiful ornamental decorative side of things. And now we're going to move more to the core sewing of what this Pfaff 1222 can do. And some of you I'm surprised you're not pushing me a little bit and saying, well, how do you say 1222 in German, Scott? How do you say 1222 in German? Because you're usually dealing with smaller numbers. Well, 1222 in German would be 1222. 1222. All right, you're going to be tested on this, so you better pay attention. 1222 is 1222. Yeah. All right, get your pencils out. It's time for a midterm. I'm only kidding. All right, so let's start with what should be fairly easy for this machine. It's going to be a single layer of saddle grade leather, and then we'll see if we can bump it up to 2. I didn't test this, but we'll give it a go, see how the machine does. All right, so single layer of saddle grade leather. And I'll make sure that all my settings are correct. I should be fine on settings. Cam stack is disengaged. Feed is normal. The only thing I will do real quick to set myself up for a little bit more success, we've got this walking foot. And during all of that decorative ornamental sewing we did, I had this walking foot disengaged. I'm going to engage it now because we're sewing leather, just to make it a little bit easier. Yeah, hold on a second. There we go. Rule number 1 is when you try to engage a walking foot on a Pfaff 1222, have your presser foot in the up position so that it can click into place. Like I said, sometimes a student, or sometimes a teacher, always a student, right? Don't laugh at me because I said it backwards. You probably would say it backwards too there, Mountie guy. Yeah, you would. All right. All right, let's try a regular good old-fashioned straight stitch now. We'll see how we do on this. All right, here we go. All right, that was fun. That was cool. Holy mackerel, that's a big straight stitch. Jiminy crickets. Yeah, when you go to the max on this Pfaff 1222 and you set it to 4 and you do a straight stitch, that is going to be a big, big straight stitch. Yeah, it is. Oh, I see something going on here. I see something going on. Our lock stitch is not snug enough right now. So we're going to have to make an adjustment. I'll show you what I mean. And I don't have a leather needle in here either. And every machine has its own nuances, doesn't it? So our top stitch looks bang on. It looks great. Lovely. See if, yeah, the lighting is pretty good. Let me do it like this. It's probably easier. For some reason the camera likes this angle better. So our top stitch looks fine. It looks really, really good. Very, very nice top stitch. And again, we're going through about 3 to 4 ounces of saddle grade leather. That lighting is not quite hitting it right. Let me get another light in there. Hold on a second. There we go. That's a little bit clearer. So the top stitch looks great, but when we turn it over, you're going to see that the lock stitch is not balanced like it should be. The lock stitch is loosey-goosey. And again, my needle is getting tired, but we may have to make a tension adjustment. We've been on autopilot this whole time. And now we have to override that autopilot and look at adjusting our tension. So let's focus on that for a second and see what we're going to do. So right now you can see the upper tension marker is on that little black band, which means the machine is going to automatically adjust depending on the stitching that we're doing. It did brilliantly here for the embroidery ornamental stitching, but it's not happy with this leather. And part of it might be our needle, but we're going to see if we can adjust it up a little bit. We'll go from 4. That's right around on 5. I don't remember what the max is for these. 9 maybe? No, 10. So we'll go, let's see, why don't we go to right around 5? I'll run down this leather one more time, see what happens to that lock stitch, and we'll go from there. Yeah, we might have to go up a little bit higher. And that's the reality when you change between a field of materials. Sometimes that auto is not going to work exactly as it should. You have to manually adjust it. And it's just a matter of understanding how to adjust it. So let's give this a go again, see what impact. We bumped it up from the default up to 5. That may not be far enough. We'll see. Again, this is saddle grade leather, so we'll have to see what impact we can bring. All right, here we go. Yeah, look at and that's just a subtle adjustment. Let me just show you. All we did is make a subtle adjustment to that. And look at the impact we've already brought to that lock stitch. Here, let me put it down by the machine so you can see it more easily. But it's a matter of understanding that tug of war again, isn't it? It's a matter of understanding that tug of war, that the upper tension is pulling up. The bobbin case is pulling down. Yeah, and the only other thing I'm seeing that, again, this is fine adjusting. This is fine adjusting. But the only other thing I'm seeing is that we made that adjustment up on the upper tension. This is our top stitch, so we've lost a little bit of definition on the top stitch, which I could bring back by adjusting the bobbin case. We had a really nice poppy straight stitch there on the top row. Let me turn that light on again. So many things to deal with when you're trying to shoot video. So we lost a little bit of definition on the top stitch as we're sewing with this Schmetz universal needle. But let's see, I'm not as concerned about adjusting the top stitch right now as I am what impact we brought to that loosey-goosey lock stitch on the bottom. Yeah, that's probably a smarter idea, Scott. Let's grab that out. Yeah, that's a better idea. So we lost a little bit of definition of the top stitch with that adjustment we made. But what impact did we bring to that loosey-goosey lock stitch? Night and day. It's night and day, you guys. Look at that. This is what we got with the first result sewing this saddle gray leather. That lock stitch was almost non-existent. The thread was so loosey-goosey on that top row. Made that adjustment, and it tightened up that lock stitch on the bottom just beautifully. I think we went a little bit too far. Let me get closer. There we go. Let's move this over here. I think that camera's having a little bit of trouble with that LED light. Yeah, that's better. So this is a great learning lesson, you guys. We sewed all of those decorative ornamental stitches using the default that the machine offers. And we got great results. Spectacular. Top stitch, lock stitch as well. Then we migrated over to a totally different material of saddle gray leather. I'm trying to get the thread back in place. We moved over to saddle gray leather, and we experienced a real loosey-goosey lock stitch. Super loosey-goosey. That top row there, it's very, very non-page 34. Made that adjustment, took it from that to absolutely as it should be, but almost a little bit too far, isn't it? We went a little bit too far with that upper tension adjustment. It's actually, if you look real close, and it's hard to see through the nap, but we almost compressed that stitch a little bit because that upper tension was saying, he wants us to pull up harder, pull harder up, pull harder up. Pulled too hard. So what we need to do now is we need to go back to that upper tension control. And we have to say, okay, what are we going to do to give a little bit more victory back to that top stitch? We lost some of that definition. You can see right now we're right around on 5. Just about on 5. Let me shut that light off. Come on, camera. You can do this. This camera's saying this live stream has gone too long, Scott. I'm off duty now, buddy. I'm off duty. So anyway, we're on 5 right now. I'm hoping you can see that. Let me back up a little bit more. It kind of comes in and out. Oh my goodness. This camera is just saying, I'm done, buddy. I'm done. Pretty much have it there. That's where I'm going to stop. I've got this on 5 right now, right? We're going to back it off a little bit. Let's see. I don't want to go crazy far back. Why don't we go to just a little bit above 4? We'll go right to 4. We'll stay in increments. So I went from 5 to 4. So I'm adjusting this upper tension back now from 5 to 4 because we went a little bit too far, I think. We're going to stitch it off one more time, see if we can preserve that lock stitch, but give some of the definition back to that top stitch. Okay? Because this is the migration we made so far. It's pretty dramatic. It's very dramatic. So hopefully we can preserve this, but give some more back to that top stitch. We lost a little bit of that in that transition. All right, let's give this a go. And I think these are great lessons to learn, aren't they? So you can see troubleshooting an issue and then know exactly what you need to do in order to achieve the goal of having that page 34 top and bottom. So we're going to stitch this off one more time and see what impact we can bring to that final stitch line. Okay? And certainly the other thing that you should understand as well is the longer the stitch you go with, or the wider the stitch you go with, if this, instead of a straight stitch, if this were a zigzag, the longer you stretch that thread out between the points of where the needle strike going through the material is, the wider spans between here, the more issues you could potentially run into in balancing that stitch balance, the tension as it is. Because the longer spans you have between where that thread is entering and exiting the material, the more tension balance adjustments you may have to make. And I've got the biggest stitch right now that Cathy's machine will do, this 1222. If I were to make this stitch shorter, and it's, in other words, turn it from 4, say, down to 3, our issue as far as the balance between top and bottom would be less apparent because we're not stretching that thread between strike points further. We're condensing it down further, which lessens the issues. I hope that makes sense. So let's try doing this stitch line one more time. See how we do as far as a balance top and bottom. And I wanted to do so many more sew-offs, but gosh, I'll have to get feedback from you guys on, do you want to go any longer on this? I think we've gone probably about long enough. All right, here we go. Another stitch line. Let's see how we do. All right, here we go. All right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's see how we did on the back. Yeah, we're a little bit off still with that. This will require, if I were sewing leather, and I'll have to find out from Cathy if she's going to be doing a lot of leather sewing or more of the, more of the ornamental side, this may require a little bit of a bobbin case adjustment as well. Yeah, it will. I'm going to sew it one more time. One more time. We're right on the fringe. Right on the fringe. All right, so I was up around 5. I'm going to go 4.5. Yeah, right about there. Stitch this one more time. Yeah, we're so close. We're so close. So close. So what I noticed is, and the reason I'm doing it one more time, is we brought the poppiness back to that top stitch. This was our first stitch line over here. It was quite nice. And then we made that adjustment to pull in that lock stitch. And we lost some of the definition here. We made an adjustment back. We got our definition back here very nicely in this third row, but we still were just a little bit shy of getting that lock stitch where it should be. So I've made another adjustment now of bumping the upper tension up just about just a hair, and we'll stitch it a little bit more, see if we can preserve this and also tighten up that lock stitch a little bit more again. But here goes down to troubleshooting, folks. This is really what this class is all about, is understanding what to do when you encounter different challenges. All right, let's give this a go. Here we go. Yeah, we're still a little bit short, And that can be, I'm going to stop here because I know what we need to do. And we already had it. We had it where I wanted to have it, but it might require a bobbin case adjustment depending on the type of sewing. So we started here real wavy on the lock stitch. I made that adjustment up. We tightened it up very, very nicely, but we lost a little bit of the top stitch. I should have probably just stopped here. I should have stopped here because we had a decent balance. It would have only required a very modest bobbin case adjustment. I could have tightened up that top stitch and maintained this. Instead, I decided to be rambunctious and go back to adjusting that upper tension back down, which takes away from the lock stitch. So we were here on the second phase, and then we were back on this phase again. So lesson learned is sometimes it requires adjustments top and bottom, depending on the material you're sewing on. Here we had a very nice lock stitch with that upper tension bumped up, but we lost a little bit on the top stitch. Should have left the upper tension right on 5 for this saddle grade leather, and then bumped up the bobbin case just slightly to tighten up that top stitch again, because we weren't that far off. But I'm going to stop on the saddle grade leather for right now because we've gone up and down on this. We know what we need to do, and it's just a matter of doing it. So, all right, what else? Protected full grain leather. Let's do some protected full grain, and let me look at the chat real quick. It cannot stop in the down position unless you rotate it down, Cathy. That is going to be indicative of the 1222E. But if you want to be in the up position, you just take that presser foot lever in the rear, almost like you're going to be putting it into the bobbin winding phase, and you just push that lever up, and then you'll be good to go as far as sewing, getting that material out. But no, it does not do the needle down on this one. All right, let me see what we can do with some of this protected full grain real quick. So I've got 2 layers of protected full grain. I want to be able to do 2 layers of leather on this live stream. You kind of see what we're going to be contending with, about 6 to 8 ounces of leather. The motor is more than strong enough to do this. It'll be a matter of manipulating the tension to try to get it to fall in the line with where we need it. And again, that's just the reality of machines, is when you're dealing with a wide field of materials, you're going from ornamental sewing to heavy grade sewing, you may have to get that sweet spot in adjusting it. So let me try to slide this underneath. We'll give this protected full grain leather a go. We're going to do 2 layers of it. And we'll see how this 1222 manages this protected full grain leather. And again, leather is all different, right? Protected full grain is going to be different than Italian leather, going to be different than vegetable tan leather, going to be different than elk hide, and it might require some adjustments as we're doing it. So let's sew down this line. I'm actually going to move it over a little bit in case we have to make some additional adjustments. There we go. You know what, Cathy? I always say this, Cathy. I always say this. Sometimes a teacher, always a student. Sometimes a teacher, always a student. Not all of the 1222s, depending on what series of production they came out, had the down needle position. Guess what? Yours does. When you're in this position right here, all you have to do is take that presser foot lever from the down position and push it a little bit further down. And then that needle sweeps down and goes to a down needle position. But it's still a manual process. You have to do it. You can't preset it to always end in the down position. But I stand corrected. This particular 1222, by taking that lever in the back, this one right here, when you're already in the down position. So right now it's normal position. I've lowered to the down position. You just push it down a little bit further, and that needle will sweep down into the material. All right. Well, there we go. Always learning. Always learning. All right, let's give this a go. See how we do. I didn't sew very straight, but let's see how it turned out. Oh yeah. Yeah. So this is protected full grain leather. It's a different type of leather than the saddle grade that we were just sewing. But it's done a really quite a nice job of balancing that stitch tension. Even going through 2 layers of this. Yeah, I would say the top stitch could use a little bit of a bump up on that bobbin case. But all in all, really quite nice. Let's take a look at this closer up. And again, it just goes to show you the material type you're working with can have an impact on the stitch outcome. This is our top stitch. And again, we went through 2 layers of saddle grade, or 2 layers of protected full grain leather. So it's not the thickness factor, it's the hide and the grain of the leather that can cause a little bit more of a challenge in this instance with trying to get that tension balanced. Beautiful, beautiful stitching here down protected full grain leather, top stitch again. I'm going to move it over here. It seems like the lighting's a little bit more even. A little bit more even light over here. And again, we don't have a fresh needle in this machine right now. This needle is starting to tire out a little bit, I think. So I would give that a page 34 top stitch for sure. It's a very lovely top stitch. Now, the challenge we've had with the leather that we did before is maintaining integrity of that lock stitch. We just did 2 layers of this protected full grain leather, got a beautiful result on the top stitch. What are we going to see on that lock stitch on the bottom? We are going to see a very lovely, very, very lovely lock stitch on the bottom as well. So working with material types is a challenge. It can be a challenge even with a great machine like this. When you're trying to migrate across a field of materials, you're going from embroidery, ornamental sewing to heavy grade sewing. There may be some tweaking that needs to be done. That's our lock stitch. That's our top stitch. So don't be discouraged. Even someone like me that's been doing this for about 23 years, I can encounter challenges, and they usually happen on a live stream. Duh, they always happen on a live stream, but we don't give up. We don't give up. We reason through it and we say, okay, what do we need to do to bring success like this? A page 34 top stitch, a page 34 lock stitch, and we're talking about 6 to 8 ounces of protected full grain leather with a machine that's already done a ton of sewing on this needle. And keeping a fresh needle when you're sewing a lot is really critical. A lot of people will lose sight of that. But when you're dealing with stuff like this, you've got to maintain a nice, fresh needle, and the results will come. It's just a matter of, again, reasoning through it as you're making the changes and the adjustments. But again, you know, there's what a 0.95 amp motor can do. You can look at it from this angle too. So Cathy, if she's quilting or whatever else, and she's got to go through multiple layers, maybe a little bit of tweaking, depending on the materials she's working with. But the results will come because the machine is all ready to get the job done. All ready to get the job done. All right. I could do so much more with this 1222. All of you have been so patient as I have covered a lot of material in this live stream. I try to go in depth. I try to repeat things again because some of the things I've seen on some of the channels, folks are not, good point, no pun intended. Cathy King is a hoot. I'd like to meet Cathy. Would anyone else like to meet Cathy King? I'd like to meet all of you. But she's got spunk and panache, doesn't she? She's got spunk and panache, and that's good. That's a good thing. Oh, let's see. Should I go back to that awful? Maybe I should do some. We haven't done veg tan in a long time. We haven't done vegetable tan leather in a long time. This is veg tan leather. Is it? Let me double check. Got so many different, look at all these materials I had prepared for this live stream. I've got the Naga hide. I've got the compressed felt. I've got the bubblegum material I had ready as well. I've got U.S. Army grade canvas. I've got, oh, I'm wrong. This is the veg tan leather right here. I want to say flatter nap. No, this is a lighter Italian. See the thickness of the nap on there compared to the veg tan. It has a very flat nap. So we should try doing some of this veg tan stuff too. That would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Let's do a zigzag, maybe a straight stitch down this this vegetable tan leather. So yeah, Cathy, again, like I say, sometimes a teacher, always a student. So let's just say for whatever reason we wanted to start in the down position. We already have our presser foot down, right? Presser foot is already in the down position, but we want the needle down for whatever reason. All I need to do is reach back there and here, see if I can do it like this. All I need to do is reach back there and take this presser foot lever and push it just a little bit further down. Let me go further over. Push it just a little bit further down, and all of a sudden that needle will go down into the material. Well, it's supposed to. There we go. It's trying to go into the material, but we're talking about 2 layers of veg tan leather. So it hit that and went, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But yeah, the down needle does work on this particular 1222. So that's good. All right. Hopefully I didn't just goof anything up. All right, here we go. We're going to try to go down with a straight stitch on these 2 layers of veg tan leather. We might encounter the same challenges we did on the saddle grade leather with that tension balance. We might not. Let's give it a try and see what happens. All right, here we go. I didn't do a brilliant job of sewing, but all in all, pretty good. Oh, yeah. Yeah, she managed that veg tan leather very, very nicely with no tension issues whatsoever. There may be something about that particular piece of saddle grade leather that I chose that caused us more challenges. So this, let me see if I can back that up a little bit further. This is what we just did on this vegetable tan leather. And look at the thickness of what we just sewed through. Pinch it together. About 8 ounces of leather, folks. 8 ounces of leather. That's why when I hit the presser foot lever to make the needle go, it hit that veg tan leather, and it was like, are you insane? Are you absolutely? But top stitch. Here, let's do it like this. Easier to see. Less battle. Probably less battle. All right. Here's our top stitch. Once the camera says, I will focus. See, there's a little bit of a shadow above us right now. Hold on a second. I just shut off my LED light above, and that seemed to be causing quite a bit of trouble. Look at it now. It's so much easier to see. Gosh, lighting is such a big factor when you're shooting live streams, isn't it? So that's our top stitching right there that we can actually see now. The camera's going, okay, I can focus on that. Beautiful, beautiful stitching on this veg tan leather. And again, we're talking about two thicknesses of it. You look from the side of what we just went through. And delivering stitching like that. Now, what are we going to see on the other side? Let's turn it over and see what we see on that lock stitch side. Did we preserve the tension factor going through 2 layers of veg tan leather? The answer is we absolutely did. And again, look at this top layer right here of the thickness of what we just went through. It's our lock stitch, you guys. Lock stitch. So certain types of leathers will sometimes present problems, and specifically the way they were cut and the grain of the hide and everything else that can play into it. The machine will react to that, and all you have to do is react back. You know, that saddle grade leather gave us a lot of trouble, a lot of challenge. Then we sat down to that protected full grain leather, no issues. Came down to this vegetable tan leather, no issues whatsoever. Beautiful stitching, lock stitch, beautiful stitching, top stitch. Isn't it fun to have victory? We sometimes are working on a project. We're sometimes working on a particular material that we haven't used a lot before, and we'll encounter problem after problem. But once we overcome it, all of a sudden there's this great exhalation, this sense of victory. And that's what I feel right now is we were battling that saddle grade leather. We stepped it up to the protected full grain leather, which by the way is actually more of a difficult leather to get through and to maintain stitch integrity. And it was absolutely as it should be. Absolutely as it should be if you kind of look at them side by side. So don't be discouraged if you run into challenges. The whole message of this classroom is it's about not giving up and finding victory even in the challenges, right? Yeah, it is. It's about victory even in the challenges. Good gravy. So if anyone ever writes anywhere in a blog on Facebook or talks about on YouTube that the Pfaff 1222 is a great ornamental machine, but it can't do heavy duty, send them to this video and show them what it did with 2 layers of veg tan leather and the quality of stitching. Take them to this video and show them 2 layers of protected full grain leather and the quality and the caliber of stitching. This is an incredible machine. And again, not because it did costumes that were on the Ed Sullivan show, although how cool is that? How cool is that? But because it's able to go from gorgeous ornamental sewing like this and say, okay, I'm done with that stuff. Let's do some veg tan leather. Let's do some protected full grain leather. And it's able to cover that entire scope. You know, some of the newer machines that are very, very expensive are only good for embroidery or quilting. You can't run them through the works when it comes to doing super heavy grade sewing, like, you know, elk hide or like saddle grade leather or any of the other leathers that we've sewn on this live stream. But when you get to a machine like this that has the capability to move between materials, I didn't even do it on this one. I could do it on the veg tan leather. I'll feel awful if we end this live stream and we never do a zigzag. That would be awful, wouldn't it? All right, I'm not gonna extend this any longer. We've been running really, really long, you guys, real long, and you've been so patient and so supportive. We're gonna go ahead and do a zigzag on this veg tan leather, and we're gonna wrap this up. There's so much more we could do, so much more. We've run too long. So this is our outer dial again for adjusting stitch length, also for choosing stitch patterns as well. So what I have to do is I have to adjust it. And again, when you're dealing with the core utility stitches, like a straight and a zigzag, or even the buttonhole stitch as well, make sure that you have this dial on this setting right here. It's absolutely critical that it's on this dial. Don't worry about this one when you're using utility stitching, but for utility stitching, it has to be set like this. Okay. So we were on a straight stitch. We were actually on a longest straight stitch, which is amazing how big that stitch is. We're going to go this way now and go into the zigzag area. So now we're in the zigzag area. Yeah, right about there, I think. We've got different options for zigzag. We can go down and make a real tiny zigzag or one that's kind of mid-range. I think we'll go right around in the mid-range one. Yeah, right around. Yeah, I'm having trouble. Right about there. That's where I'll stop. So we'll see if we can lay down a zigzag. Again, a zigzag, depending on how wide it is, you can also encounter tension issues because it's stretching that thread out longer and wider between the strike points where that needle is passing through the material. So we're right around in the middle right here. We'll see how this handles as far as this veg tan leather. Again, we're going through 2 layers of this. It's not a light sew off. This is definitely considered a heavy duty sew off. Looking at the screen. Yep, that's clear enough. Good. Okay, let's try to do a zigzag now, going down these 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. All right, get my take-up arm all the way up. All right, here we go. And one thing I want to say to y'all is I didn't hand start this. Some machines, if you go through this much leather, about 8 ounces of vegetable tan leather, you're going to have to give that machine a little bit of a boost. You're going to have to turn that balance wheel a little bit to give it a boost. No boost needed. Again, it's got a 0.95 amp motor, original Pfaff motor, Western Germany engineered, and it just does spectacular as far as launch. It does spectacular as far as launch. All right, this is our last sew off, folks. You've been so kind and so supportive and celebrating with Cathy from Missouri. Again, the significance of this machine belonging to her mom, who was a gifted seamstress and did costumes for that rock band that was featured on the Ed Sullivan show. I mean, there's so much history with this machine, but also performance as well. And you know what? I couldn't be any more pleased. I just couldn't be any more pleased with how this final sew off, how this incredible machine handled this final sew off. Just checking my direction. Yeah, this is our top stitch. So we're going to be looking at the original straight stitch, the zigzag on top. Again, it's not the widest zigzag that this machine can do. It's about middle of the road. Take a look at this. We'll take a look at it as soon as the camera says I'm ready to focus. Let me change the angle of this for the lighting. Maybe the lighting will help a little bit, I think. Isn't that crazy? All I did was move it from here to over here. The camera's like, I can't help you over here, but I'll help you over here. Look at that. Now, don't prove me wrong. You can focus on it now, anytime now. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Top row, bottom row, just spectacular. Try to angle that a little bit more. I think the camera likes the angle a little bit better. Let's try this. Folks, this, I can't explain to you how difficult this sew off is and just how beautifully Cathy's machine just handled it and laying down absolutely bang on stitching as well. The top stitch is just as it should be. How did we do on the lock stitch? The lock stitch was a challenge with the saddle grade, just a single layer of it. We've got 2 layers of this. Here's our lock stitch now. And again, our top row is the straight stitch we did. The zigzag is on the bottom. Change that angle again. Lighting is such a persnickety thing, isn't it? Lighting is such a persnickety thing. So thank you so much for your patience and persevering through all the stuff that we covered in this live stream. It was expansive to say the least. And when you're dealing with the mysteries of a machine like this, that very few people will present a machine like this because it's a little bit complicated to try to explain it. And not that the audience isn't incredibly intelligent. All of you are incredibly intelligent, but still it's new to you, isn't it? And trying to explain it and cover things, and then like back in school, you repeat things more than once so that it's reinforced. And you get an outcome like this. This is our last sew off now, straight and zigzag through this vegetable tan leather. That's a little crazy, isn't it? And yet we got a result for the top stitch and the lock stitch that's just absolutely off the charts. That's the other side of the leather now. I decided to lay it down. I think it's easier to see it that way. So thank you again so much for spending so much of your Saturday celebrating this great machine that has so much history with Cathy's family. And I know she's very excited. I keep dancing around this vegetable tan leather. This is, you guys remember Dusty that I interviewed that did leather work for Alice Cooper and Johnny Depp and all the other big shots? This is the type of leather that he loves sewing on, the veg tan leather. And I guess I get it. I guess I understand why. It's just spectacular leather, isn't it? So, well, Cathy again from Missouri. Thank you so much for the privilege of having this. There I am. I probably look tired because we just ran like almost 3 hours and 30 minutes, you guys. And I've been the whole time. So I'm a little bit tuckered out. And I didn't take time for breakfast today because I thought, okay, it's probably going to be like a 2-hour live stream. We'll get through this machine. We'll cover, everything we need to cover with it. And we'll do the heavy duty sewing as well. And I've got all these sew offs ready, even in the satin and silk range as well. And denim. And I had everything I was all set. I was all prepared. I was here late last night getting ready. I was here early this morning getting ready. We still didn't cover everything I wanted to cover. But you know what? That's okay, because this machine is going to head back to Missouri now, and Cathy will cover the areas that I didn't get to. And isn't it fun during a live stream, even with all of my experience? I've touched thousands of machines. I've served people around the world with preparing machines for them. I can still learn something new, like, oh yeah, this particular 1222 does have a needle down position. Always a student. Always, 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 always a student. And isn't it fun when something like that happens and you're like, hey, Scott's always a student, just like us. He's always learning. Because I don't see these 1222s very often. And that's why I was so excited when Cathy said, I'm going to send you a 1222. It's got a lot of issues. It's frozen up. It's got this going on. It's got that going on. It's not working right with this. Step by step, right? And we finally get to the finish line. We can finally celebrate this machine at a live stream like this and just watch it do its dance. Yeah, watch it do its dance. So good stuff. All right. Whenever you guys need to step away, it's totally cool. It's totally, totally cool. I'm not going to end the live stream because it looks like Christine is is chatting a little bit with Cathy right now, and they're just kind of visiting about things. I'm going to wind a bobbin while you guys are chatting a little bit more, because I wanted to show that once I can find a bobbin. I wanted to show this bobbin that I'm going to put in a separate bag. Again, this is designed more for a domestic sewing machine. This is the one that was in this machine when it came to the workshop, but I wanted to show you guys how to wind a bobbin on this machine as well. So we're going to do that real quick before we end up. Cool thing about this 1222, where sometimes you have to slide the bobbin onto a mounting point and it has to snap into place. This one is magnetic. And that magnet that's in here just grabs that sucker. You can kind of even drop it from up here. Like a little kid, right? I know I'm like a little kid. So a couple things we have to do to wind a bobbin. First of all, we have to go over here to this fancy lever, which I now know if you put it down in the sewing position and you push it a little bit further, from that point right there, all of a sudden it'll go to a needle down position. So there you go. But we're going to go the opposite way right now because we want to disengage that clutch to wind a bobbin. So I'm going to push it all the way up to disengage that bobbin clutch, the bobbin winding clutch. You know what I'm talking about. It's been a long live stream, you guys. It's been a long live stream. So now the clutch is disengaged for bobbin winding. I pushed it all the way up. And now we need to go over here. And this is where having somebody to hold the camera would be so nice. Be so nice. How am I going to do this? I have no idea how I'm going to do this. All right, let me get some thread first of all. That's the step number one. And I'll do my best to demonstrate. I'll do my best. So I got this second little spool of thread up here. Excuse me. Second little spool of thread right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to go around this thread tensioner right here, go around it clockwise. So I'm going to hold the camera with my right hand. I'm going to come through here. Almost got it. Lost it. This is one-handed. This is a lot easier if you do it two-handed. Wait. I'm going to hold my finger on there. There. Ha ha ha. See that? So you get this little crisscross thing, if you can see that in the shot. Let me shut this light off. You get this little crisscross thing where now the threads are basically crossing each other. You can see that. So again, I just came around clockwise, and now we're going to take this thread back to the bobbin. So I'm just going to let go of it for a second. Just kind of, that's how you want to see it right there. We've got this other thread over here because we're threaded up for sewing right now. So just follow this one from here. We come around clockwise, come back to here, and then we come over to this bobbin. And everyone does bobbins differently. I sometimes wind them towards me. I sometimes wind them away. Almost there. Yeah, just hang on to a little tail there. And then make sure you slide this in here to engage the bobbin winding. And these are a low contact type bobbin winder. In other words, it's got a tiny little tire on the underside of this cover. This cover comes off for servicing and maintaining your machine. It's got a tiny little wheel on there that just, it's by design. It makes a light contact with the inside of the balance wheel. You'll notice when we're winding a bobbin that this isn't even turning, but the inside part of that balance wheel assembly is turning. So now we have to kind of back up here. I'll hold on to my little tail and hopefully we get a fair launch with this. We'll see. And see right now, sometimes what you have to do is you have to give a little bit of a boost. There we go. And it's because the wheel is so tiny on the inside of that cover. If you take your cover off and you look at it, it's just really, really tiny. And again, this is the wrong bobbin for this machine, but I'm winding it anyway just to show you the winding process. And that's our cutoff point. See, it reaches that point right now where, according to this adjuster, it automatically disengages. So if I put on the foot controller right now, see, it's cutting it off. So then I have to pull this out, and then we've got our bobbin wound. Yeah. So that's how you wind a bobbin on this thing. All right, I'm going to end now for sure and let all of you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. But we covered so much in this, didn't we? We ran into obstacles. We overcame the obstacles. We did so many fun decorative sew-offs. We hit 2 buttons in here. We hit 3 buttons in there. And we just went crazy during this live stream. So I hope Cathy, the owner, enjoyed it. I hope the stuff I covered is helpful. And I'm so excited to get a. I'll make sure I remember to get a copy of this for Cathy and anyone else that has a 1221, 1222, or 1222 E. If you don't have a copy of this, reach out to me. And to Cathy, there's no cost involved. I'm just going to send it with her machine. But to others that reach out, because this is, it's a lot to print. So, yeah, so just reach out. I'll get it to you. And that way you can have a lot of fun with your 1222 or 1221 or 1222. That's a lot of numbers to say. You can have a lot of fun with a machine like this. Yeah, there we go. All right. Well, take care, everybody. I'll put on a little bit of music, kind of just angle Cathy's machine a little bit. I love to do that at the end so that everyone can look at it and drool over Cathy's machine and go, I wish I had that machine. I wish I had it, but I don't. And again, don't let anyone tell you that a machine like this can't do heavy duty, right? Off the charts, off the charts. So much more we could have done, but time is up. Time is up. All right, let me move this, angle Cathy's machine a little bit more. Yeah, that's pretty good. Sew-offs right there, protected full grain leather, saddle grade leather, you naughty saddle grain leather. Vegetable tan leather. Oh, we didn't sew elk hide. I'll send this elk hide maybe with, and then Cathy can sew elk hide. And then all of these fun stitches that we did, those were just a lot of fun, weren't they? Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of the weekend. And I'm going to be doing another live stream this week for an unboxing for a machine that just arrived. So kind of keep an eye open for that if you have time. All right. A little bit of music. Give me some music, please. On a different song. Oh, and a quick little thing to the owner. Let me mute that. Quick little thing to the owner, Cathy from Missouri. I took off that nasty looking sticker on the front of here, like we discussed. This is a sticker that would have been put on at the factory. It's like a Better Homes and Gardens type sticker. If you want this one off as well, let me know, and I will take it off for you. But it would be kind of germane to the provenance of the machine, etc. So I can leave it on as well. Just send me a text or whatever. Let me know, and I'll take care of it for you. Okay. All right. That was it. All right. Music back on. Hey, something totally random. If you guys haven't tried these Coca-Cola flavored Tic Tacs, they're really good. They're really good. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream now. And the chat will stay active for a little bit. Hope you had a great time, everybody. Thanks so much again. And, oh, you're very welcome, Cathy. It's my pleasure. And watch for a live stream this week for an unboxing. And the unboxing is actually coming from an area called Sister Bay Egg Harbor. Sister Bay Egg Harbor, which is in Wisconsin. And this is going to be a real fun project. So you'll want to check this out. All right, take care, everybody. Ending the live stream now. Almost now. Not yet. Almost. Really close. I'm right about, yep, just about there. All right, ending the live stream in 3, 2, 1. God bless. Take care, everybody.